cover. If we are to finish on time, it's Friday. Some of us are pastors. We'll have to be there. If you are a counselor and then you don't attend funerals and weddings and stuff like that, you may be accused of being arrogant or not assisting. There's a famous word that is not assisting. This one is arrogant. We think we must review our vote. To be a counselor is, I was not properly briefed before I took a decision to be a counselor. I don't think I was properly briefed. I was a comfortable senior manager. I was not properly briefed. I would still have taken the same decision. We will start in the next 4 minutes. Certainly. We don't need a quorum. I know school. Banababa school ubama. Kore. Isimbaba parang di joki mo di mamaruko. Huh? Pabanorong ikan namo konyan. Yes. Pamba ukra motapere buruku hafetsa wa para joki modi. Yes. Ukai koketsu salahotu wa nyala, then he disappeared. How nyala, you must show discipline first. Because how nyala utlahay kanako. Akitsura le mo briefi. Oh. Na akitsura le mo tlhaloseditse or how simula or wa nyala. Ai chaya 9 a phone illa. How re hello, abare hello bar kantuko kai. Kandikinaguma. Enonya la wakoranguo. Kanikinaguma. Askir kubudich. Askir kubudich. Tabaya kinyaku ibuelej. Ya witure. Kiranguo mabupan. Madibe. The second deputy chair. Are you happy this morning? The third. You keep on changing numbers. Last night I was reminded that you are the second. Now this morning things have changed. You are the third. Oh, I see. I see. Yes. 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 Yeah, nung Maria. Yes. What is the spirit telling you about today? Are you up for it?
I've been advised to allow Provincial Commission to proceed with continue with the verification.
Oh, and then
She's gonna continue this case to them.
not person. We'll focus. The deputy check. Yeah. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I am going to hand over now to the able leadership of the Commissioner of All Women in the province, Councillor Gago Mathe. I thought bomme ba tla go amogela mara ra bona gore
Quality clapping hand. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Gala dinner ya Salga nna ke itse yana. It becomes very difficult to start the following day. Yeah, it's always difficult to start the following day, but good morning, astute colleagues, officials of Salga, officials from our municipalities and provincial government, good morning. I believe and hope we all slept well, and by the grace of God, we are here today. You slept very well, Chair. Great members assembly, great gala dinner. Why wouldn't you? Ke go bona o tsoga o glowa man. O glowa, ke mona time o tsoga a glowa. The CEO, huh? In the same place. Wow. This is a saga to be reckoned with, and we hope our member municipalities have been revived. The hope has been revived. The leadership you have elected this time around is quite all right. It's quite all right. Yeah. I don't mean to faff ourselves, but it's fitting, you know. Yeah, no, we're blowing it, and we're blowing it very high and very loud. So welcome again. I was hoping that Impact Chair was here so that she can open up with an extremely powerful prayer. Speaker Matlosana, your Impact Chair is always a blessing in every event. I believe that as Salga, we must co-opt her as our chaplain. I'm convinced as Salga, we must co-opt her as the Salga chaplain for the next 5 years. You know, she really set the tone for the members assembly yesterday and revived our spirits and actually gave us hope, because you know, at the end of the day, once you realize and understand that you were chosen on purpose and he knew our destiny long before we were conceived, then you'd realize that the role that we are forced to play is a role that it was destined that we would play it anyway. As always, the chairperson of Salga Northwest is forever motivating us to be the best that we can. And you can realize that the chairperson, along with Koko Sara, are surrounded by an extremely young crop of leaders. It's exactly what which speaker was speaking, Kosi Mabe, yesterday, was speaking exactly about this generational mix where you need the more experienced to mentor. I get time o promotilwe mabana o tswile mo scheming sa rona sa young adults. O time ya no tsamale bokoko Sara levels chair. So this is the true embodiment of what Khosi Mabe was speaking about yesterday, where we have the senior leadership mentoring us and preparing us for these leadership roles while they are still next to us, and we will forever appreciate that. Thank you very much. Can I get a volunteer to just bless us with a prayer? Second chaplain, Dr. Batsi Muruti. Can we get Muruti to come and bless us this morning? Ke a leboga moruti.
Dumelang bagaetsho. Ka re tla ema ka maoto. Re ya ho boka more, re ntse re thabela we, re sa phela ha monate ka pabalo ya hao nta re pholositswe ka dineo ne o tsohle re polaha le holo le re thabisitse empe hana jwale bana ba inkatsa ebetoko bobebe sikarwangkase ebi. A re rapele morena le modimo wa rona ya kalameng marung, Kgosi Jesu wa leloko la Juda, bana ba gago mo mosong wa letsatsi modimo wa Iseraele, re lebohela go tsoga modimo. Ba bang ba bana ba gago Kriste ga ba kgona go tsoga. Motshegare o montle wa letsatsi modimo wa Iseraele, re lopa mohau le mosa wa gago ngalong ena. E ba le rona modimo wa Iseraele, ba le leadership ya gago. Ke baeteledipele modimo wa Iseraele ba ileng wa ba nwenta pele ba goroga ngalong ena ya keteledipele. Re fe matla le thata le bohlale, lead us God, and give us strength and wisdom to lead properly and give hope to our people. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dr. Batsi. Before we go any further, yesterday we omitted, it was a very hectic day, full of debates and discussion, extremely exciting. And we did not recognize the erudite delegation of Northwest University led by Professor Costa Hofisi. University of Northwest, you are welcome. Thank you for being with us yesterday, last night, and today. Where as Salga, we are passionate about entrenching the relationship with the university. As the academics, or as the erudite, as I've been taught that word this blessed morning. I thought I knew English, but this morning I learned a very beautiful word, erudite, which means exclusive ownership of understanding. Super experts. So Prof, you and your delegation, you need to really understand and know that as this leadership, we are banking on this exclusivity. Municipalities are collapsing, and yet we have such an institution right next to us. Worst of all, my municipality is 500 meters from the university. And your world of knowledge is what is needed right now. Not only administrators, but with deployees as well. The university really needs to come on board, or we need to come on board. I don't know who is staying away from who, but your knowledge needs to be imparted. We cannot continue with this section 139 39s anymore that are seen as an opportunity to just fatten our pockets because there's literally no accountability. We look forward, Chairman, to solidify this relationship. Since we have joined Salga, or since we've been participating, I know that the university has been with us every step of the way, but it should not only be in events like this. The university must design counselor-based programs. You know, you need to design counselor-based programs that are going to capacitate us irrespective of our prior learning capacities. Our municipalities are in trouble, Prof. Not because we do not have the will to change the system, we just don't have the know-how. And this is where I think your mentorship would jump in to try and alleviate the problem. But once again, welcome and thank you very much to the delegation. Thank you very much. Debate number 3, straight to business of the day. And thank you once again for attending the gala dinner. All of you looked superb. Chairman, PDO, Ntate Lance, you can see that we are trying to raise the bar. Every time we are trying to raise the bar. I don't know in our third year where the bar will be, but I think it would have blown this roof right into the sky. But we are getting the Sisnozi. We are siyazama ne. Siyayenza ne. Halala Northwest, Salga, halala. Thank you very much. That was on a lighter note. Now straight to debate number 3. Outstanding item for yesterday was debate number 3 and debate number 4. At debate number 3, the presenter for the debate will be Mr. Lance Joel, our Chief Operating Officer and Acting Chief Executive Officer of Salga. The facilitator for this session will be Mr. Dedi Kuselo, who is a business facilitator. Mr. Lance, is Dr. Ben Bole here, PDO? Dr. Ben Bole is not here and we are not going to wait. We are going to, is he here? Oh, he is here. He is here. He is here. So Dr. Ben Bole must just ascend the stage. Don't even get a chair. Don't collect 200. Don't pass begin. Just come straight to the stage. Dr. Ben, who is the Director, Stakeholder Engagement and Capacity Development for Coxstar. Mr. Lance Joel will be presenting the future and challenges of coalition governments on the local government sphere, link sharing of coalition experience. We'll be sharing the platform with Dr. Ben Bole, where the topic will be the impact of the application of section 1391A to C on municipalities in the Northwest, motions of no confidence on political portfolios, and who motions, ne? Yeah, we live with motions here in Northwest. We love motions. When we start getting bored, we just motion each other. The resource people will be Professor Sam Koma from the University of Northwest, and the scribes for the session will be Revonia Tikologo and Knox, with minutes being taken by Judith, Tsepo, and Thelma. Mr. Dedi Kuselo, I'm going to hand it over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Molweni. Okay, Masizameni futhi molweni. Dumelang. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dedi Kuselo, and as indicated, I'll be facilitating this important session. I think it's a topical one, I get in the country. It's hot in the news. It's something that causes us sleepless nights. When you hear something is happening, we all get glued on our TVs. Maybe by introduction, I am a business strategist. I've had the privilege of working with Salga. After the 2016 elections, I was leading the process of the development of the strategy that ended in the last election. So I have had a lot of engagement with the entire Salga nationally, so at least I have that inside info. And also I'm a local. I'm from Kuma. Yeah, go Kuma, mo Stilfontein, Honamo. So after the work we did with Salga, I remember meeting all the 4 mayors of the district in Sandton. And I said to them, if I can do this at national, I can do it at home. And that's how I ended up doing the work with the city of Matlosana. And after that, Lance, by the way, and this is inspired by the work I did with you, is that in partnership with the local municipality of Matlosana, we worked on an alternative to the mining industry because the mining is going down. But there has not been an alternative. What will happen when these mines closes? And as a result, we have set up a learning and manufacturing hub in one of the mining wards, which is Ward 21. It currently employs 100 women who are working in a textile factory, 50 young people that are doing a program with EWCTA. And the mayor, I saw him here. I don't know if I'll be busting his bubble, but he is busy championing the setting up of a wood factory and an automotive hub. Those are what we are doing currently. So with all protocol observed, I want to say the following in my opening. Is that okay, Program Director? So I have the opportunity of living in 2 cities, literally Tshwane and Matlosana. So I've got 2 houses in both these cities. And we know what's going on in Tshwane, I guess. And I have seen the transition from what we would regard as a stable government to a coalition government. And without casting any aspersions, the last time we saw development as the people of Tshwane, it was when we had a single government before coalitions happened. Literally. And I can point just maybe 2 or 3 projects. There was a time when Johannesburg was dominant in the social and economic scene. So major events, we used to go to the Dome and so forth. The Dome is closed, by the way, Actually, it's sold. They're selling cars now, no more big events. Everybody's flocking in Tshwane. And they happen to flock into Tshwane in an area called Mainland Main. This is where Salga's head offices are. Now, that was a project that happened in the previous administration. That's one. And we have the PRTs and so many other projects that happened during the time. But ever since there was a coalition government, I remember I called the municipality to request for a bill. Like, time lapses and all that. My bills are getting lost along the way. No, they were not getting lost. It's because they were just not sent. But immediately after alerting them, I get a letter from lawyers. I'm the one who told you that you must send me bills. Not only place I get a lawyer, so that's one scenario. And when we look at what happened recently as well, is that wherever there are coalition governments, there's a struggle of decision making. There's a struggle of prioritization. So, because obviously every party that gets into government comes with their own manifesto, they come with different priorities and so forth. So the Sandton people will say, no, we just want a bicycle ride pavement, but go Soweto or wherever, they say, no, we need water. Now there's this juxtaposing of what really matters and all those kind of stuff. So these are challenges that are there, that are alive to us as a country. So when you have at some point, Lance, the metros in our country were the cash cows. And now of late, we hear that the cash cows have become cashless. You start wondering what went wrong. So there is a case for us to say, how do we navigate through these changing times? How do we navigate through these times where the trends are such that we are moving in this direction, yet the samples of what we are getting across the country are saying that even the cash cows have become stagnant. And if the cash cows become stagnant, what will happen when the smaller municipalities that are mainly grant dependent get to that point? What will happen? What will be the scenario that we are faced with? And this is, for me, the premise of what is important. That's one. Number two, we are all at a junction. I listened to the former, as he was referred to, the former, the former speaker, Mr. Former, he remains the former. Ne? So, and I've listened to him a couple of times, like I have to take interest or there's a resoluteness, there's a firmness, there's a forwardness, like we be as easy, there's no sugarcoating. I cringed actually, that we begin I sugarcoat next. So at the end, I spoke to one of my friends who was there. When I close, man, why mean and or because we know there are people that deliver very good speeches. But I will check out what happens, implementation, nothing happens. So I don't know, this one means it. But here's the point that I got, and this is reality. It says he drove to Tlokwe. Ne? I mean, basically. He was in Tlokwe, drove into Ikacheng. We can do the same. Ne? Where we can go through our communities and all this kind of stuff. The reality is that service delivery is a serious problem. So we are all at the junction because things can go wrong. And we are at that point where we need to do something. Lastly, I want to, Chairperson, can I quickly say something about the mentioning of the heroes that we have? Chairman, you did very well to remind us of what we have, and actually it was very inspiring to know. So I want us to remember the story of Moses. When Moses was faced with the enemy, he screamed for help. He says, I mean, why, what? And he was asked one question. What is the question that you got asked? What do you have in your hands? What was a walking stick became a magic stick. So I want to say the following, that if we were to learn from what KZN did with the entertainment crew, DJ Tira, they championed Jose Deben, and indeed the tourism industry boomed. So all I'm saying is that let's not just mention, let's use. Okay, thank you. So let's get into it. Mr. Lance Jewell, COO, ACO, CEO, been there. You have got a bird's eye view of what's going on in the local government sector across the country. You travel literally from city to city, town to town. You engage with everybody across the political spectrum. And as trends happen or unfold, you're always there to say this might happen. And I do remember at some point you anticipated some of the changes that we are currently seeing. So we would like you to give us a sense of where are we? What is the actual situation in relation to coalitions? As you see it from a Salga perspective, as a representative body of local government, and what would you say is the trend moving forward? And since these challenges seem to be real in the public domain, what would you say should happen for us to maintain the stability that we require and need as a country, and not lose out on the purpose of why local government is there? Because at the moment, there is a strong feeling, and I feel it, that it seems like we have forgotten what we are formed for every time all these things happen, because obviously it is the public that suffers in the process. So let's give Mr. Jewel a round of applause as he comes to the stage.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and greetings to the PEC as led by the chairperson in the province and all delegates from municipalities, both politically and administratively, and our key stakeholders and partners. I was laughing because I asked how much time I have, and he said 5 minutes. So he takes more time than the anchor presentation. So I am not sure what to do, because I then said maybe I must sit down. Okay. No, thank you very much. I think it will not do justice to the fact that I prepared to participate in the conversation. And I thought the nature of the conversation is such that we must talk about these things, because we must be solution driven, and we would want to present what we think are solutions as Salga, and hear whether the Northwest Province agrees with the thinking or could supplement what is emerging as a solution to the crisis. So I would start by presenting this picture, and there are two things that you see from this picture. A picture of, since we started local government in December 2000, where the coalitions themselves are new. So you can see with every single election, we have had coalitions. You would expect that the Western Cape, which has for every single election had a high number of coalitions, they would be well experienced in the space. But you would have seen, particularly yourselves as the Northwest, that for the first 3 elections, you were immune from this. And then in 2016, there was one opportunity for you to assess its implications, and now that has increased to 3. In many other municipalities, the numbers are quite scary, particularly Gauteng, 11 municipalities, only one is outrightly governed. The remaining 10, essentially 97% of the province is led through coalitions. So coalitions is a reality that is with us. It has been with us. We have not given sufficient attention to it. And I would have suggested that the 5 minutes I'm given is in fact reinforcing the point that we don't want to have a conversation about it. We want to brush over it and not deal with it for what it is. What comes with coalitions as we speak since November last year, 6 of the 8 metros are governed through coalitions. And you would have picked up in the media how power is likely to change. As we speak, the slide said 7, we are now sitting at 9 municipalities out of the 86 that have already shifted power. And it is not power that is likely to last for long. It is still to change. And all of this has an implication, as the facilitator said, on people on the ground, on communities, on stability in municipalities, and in the main places, communities at the brunt of not receiving the services that are necessary. because you can go to each of these coalition governed municipalities and assess what council has been seized with since last year. So there are ordinary meetings, there are special meetings. There are more special meetings than ordinary meetings. And every special meeting is dealing with that popular item called motion. Very popular item. All of us now know there's a thing called motion of no confidence. And if there's anyone, any councillor that wants to put forward a motion now and doesn't know how it works, I'll be very surprised, because you would have been trained on it through what you have seen in other municipalities. But the focus has not been on delivering on the promises made during the manifestos. I have personally looked at all of the manifestos of political parties, and I think it's an interesting piece of work to do, because none of them talk about distribution of tenders. None of them say to the electorate, vote for us. We are going to negotiate whether we are the speaker, the mayor, or we'll take up the chief whip position, or we would want to have as many MMCs as possible. You don't see all of those things in the manifesto. So all of the promises made in the manifestos of political parties have taken a backseat since the elections. So the electorate has spoken, the promises made are put on the back burner, and core to the conversation is how we could remain in power by hook or by crook, and it has nothing to do with the promises that has been made to the electorate. Now, as Salga, we thought that drawn from the 2016 experiences, we need to guide political parties, and that work we did last year, more than a year ago. And it was prior to the 2021 elections that we did this work. And we used the experience of 2016 to 2021 to develop in partnership with the Dula Oma Institute what we felt is a guideline to political parties on two things. Firstly, an attempt to guide political parties on how to form coalitions, which is the easy part. The more difficult part is the second part. We guided them on how to sustain coalition partnerships. And I had spent in the recent past a lot of time in those coalition-run municipalities. And every time we mention the framework that has been developed, and you remind people of what we had said, they said, oh, now you are telling us. And I said, no, we're not telling us you now. We have told you last year at the time of the elections. The difficulty with the guidelines, it's exactly what it is, a guideline. It's up to political parties whether they want to follow it or not follow it. And in the absence of rules and a legislative framework, the uncertainty related to coalitions will certainly continue. So we have this voluntary framework, up to political parties to follow or not. What I can indicate is where political parties have followed it, they are in fact more stable coalitions, very stable coalitions. So there are coalitions that are unstable, but there are also coalitions that are very stable. But of course, those that are heavily involved will tell you, we have followed your framework as much as possible, but we still have sleepless nights because there are some things that you can't get over, such as selling your soul. And many have done so in order to be in power. But we thought long term, we would want to see a regulatory framework. So whether it's through regulations or through legislation that will bring certainty. And what are some of the things that we are starting to think about? And this is what we would be keen on hearing from the Northwest Province on. There is a suggestion that is emerging that says, because everyone is asking, okay, so how are you going to regulated through law. The first thing you must do is deal with the problem. What is the problem currently? The focus is on that thing, that fashionable thing called notice of motion of no confidence. How do we remove that element to be a constant agenda item? And the first thing you do is you limit it. So a suggestion that, because we can't spend the whole year focusing on the motion, let's create a window of opportunity. So we say, as an example, between January and March, just before you start your IDP related processes, your budget processes, here's an opportunity. If you want to remove the mayor, the speaker, or the chief whip, you do it between January up to March. Yes, finish it. Get that excitement over, and then focus on the business. Develop your plan for the year to respond to the core, to the issues that communities want you to focus on. And it's a response to their needs. So for 3 months, you create excitement, but the excitement is limited to 3 months. 9 months, you focus on developing a plan, delivering on that plan. And next year, you create more excitement. But it can't be that we are focusing, every meeting is this item. Nothing else gets done. So that's, for instance, some of the thinking. Secondly, some of the thinking is, while informing a coalition, perhaps like many other mature countries that have been subjected to coalition arrangements for decades, you give first preference to the party that got the highest number of seats to form a coalition. If they fail, then others could try and form a coalition, so that you don't have everyone wanting to be in charge. And we will indicate to you practically what we're talking about. So typically those are elements that we feel could find its way into the law, so that we try and buffer communities against this unfortunate reality that they take and their needs take a backseat, whilst elsewhere the focus is. And Ekurhuleni was a perfect example. That in the absence of, I never thought it was possible. I was just proven right. That in the absence of an executive mayor, no services are delivered. So as the administration, the next discussion facilitators about professionalization, the administration also gets involved. So services are not delivered because there is no executive mayor. There are no MMCs. That's what happened with just recently. But put that aside, the last point we thought should be made is, how do we, whilst waiting for legislative amendments, how do we introduce an immediate solution to the problem? And there is a suggestion that we need to review the Section 12 notices of municipalities. And in the main, what we are proposing is that for all coalition governed municipalities, we change them from mayoral executive systems, where the mayor is court power, executive power, and move that to a collective executive system where the executive committee is court to power, and the mayor is in the main the chair of the executive committee, but also largely playing a ceremonial role. So the executive authority does not reside in an individual that appoints a mayoral committee. It resides in an executive committee that is comprised of those political parties that have secured the highest numbers of votes. So it is a one-person show, and I'm not saying that respectfully in the context of what we would want to present, versus an inclusive governance arrangement where political parties that have done enough at the ballot box are indeed included as part of executive decision making. Why are we making this suggestion? It is based on a very simple principle of political inclusivity. Because what inordinately happens in an executive mayoral system is that matters are brought, they are executed and brought to council as a last resort. So instead of having the conflict that we currently have in council, we are moving that to the executive committee and create space for inclusive decision making. And you would find that where you have inclusive decision making, by the time it gets to council, at least the major political parties would have had the benefit of engaging with the content of what is being intended and being part of that decision making. Rather than finding it in council, they are taking it to council. And there are experiences that we can share, and we will do so in the last slide of the presentation. So that's a suggestion. What does it mean in practice? I'm going to present two examples because I have worked closely in these two provinces, these two municipalities, these two provinces over the last year. And let's start with Nelson Mandela Bay. And I will explain the slide to you. So in Nelson Mandela Bay, there are 120 councillors. On the left of the slide, you would see all of the political parties in Nelson Mandela Bay. Okay, you see it's a very long list of political parties, but then it's a high number of seats, 120. And these are the seats that are allocated across each of the political parties. And you can see two political parties having the highest number, equal number of seats. And when you look at the MACO that was created after the elections last year, that is the makeup of the MACO. And this is the sad part of Nelson Mandela Bay. Sad, it's also home for me. There is a party called AIM right at the top. It got one seat. And with that one seat, they are rewarded with a MACO seat. There's a party called Good. They got one seat. They were rewarded with a MACO seat. There's the PAC, UDM. They are rewarded. So the person that just got in is also a member of the MACO. This city was run by one-seat parties. What do I mean? Because I'm going to practically tell you what happened in that municipality. Run by one-seat parties. So the parties with the highest number of seats, they were not running the city. What do I mean by running the municipality? When the mayor convenes the MACO, they don't come, MACO members. Why are they not coming? By the way, you did not appoint us, you, mayor. We were appointed somewhere. We're not on count to you. City manager wants to convene the executive management team. The EDs don't come. Why? We're not appointed by you. We are appointed by the MMCs. So what these MMCs did, they also appointed the EDs. This is a coalition government. Because part of the arrangements in the corner at night was you give us a seat, but in addition to giving you the seat, we also want to appoint our own executive heads. Yes. So this municipality was run by one-seat parties. And that is the sad state of affairs. And that's why things have collapsed prior to the change, and it's likely to collapse again in this municipality because the will of the people never found expression in the governance arrangements within the municipality. And what we had done is that we had suggested to change this municipality by converting it to a collective executive system. And that collective executive system would have allowed the parties with the highest number of seats to be the executive committee and run this municipality. I should indicate to you, but you would not be surprised, that with this coalition arrangement, with the 1 seats, they could not agree on the IDP and the budget, because these 1 seat parties were demanding things in that IDP, in that budget. They could not adopt it. What happened in this municipality to adopt the IDP and the budget? The 2 parties with the highest number of seats worked together. All of us, including myself, said, no, man, it won't happen. They worked together. Why? Because they were looking at the best interests of the people of Nelson Mandela Bay. Secondly, we have all heard about the water crisis in Nelson Mandela Bay. The coalition partners could not resolve their differences in order to resolve the water crisis. The people of, in fact, as we speak, I'm a ratepayer in that city. The water we get when you open the tap, it's scary. Because the coalition government could not agree. It required the 2 parties with the highest number of seats to work together to start to resolve the water crisis. What is the point that we are making? Is that many people, when they see the composition of the new proposed EXCO, that you can't change because the legislation provides how you compose the EXCO. And you can't have a vote of no confidence in the EXCO. No. That is predetermined through the outcomes of the elections. You can't change that. They would say, no, these parties are not going to work together. But also that EXCO itself would not agree amongst themselves. You would be surprised, as you would know in your own areas, there may be disagreements between your parties at a provincial and national level. But at the local level, you are actually cordial with each other. You can actually work together at the local level. But you are influenced by they call it the party line. Not sure what that means. So that is the difficulty. So this ecosystem would allow political inclusivity, but it will also ensure that those that the electorate wanted to lead are in fact leading in this instance. Second example, City of Johannesburg. This is the picture, City of Johannesburg, 270 councillors, much less than what you find in Nelson Mandela Bay. Those are the allocations across the political parties in the seats in council. That is the MACO, I must say, that's the MACO that the courts found is illegal, illegitimate. 1522. So again, a party with 2 seats is rewarded with a seat in MACO. The party with 8 seats is rewarded with 2 seats in MACO. And the remaining 14 seats are rewarded with 2 seats. Those that have guarded high number of seats in council are excluded from executive decision making. And so the conversation will always be, no, we want to be in charge. We are not part of decision making. We want to be part of decision making. So we are proposing the Section 12 change and convert City of Johannesburg to an EXCO that would allow the parties that secured the highest number of seats to be part of executive decision making. And the party that got 2 seats must work hard so that the next time we get to the ballot box, they can increase that number. In the absence of that, they would be quite happy because they are kingmakers. So kingmakers in both the City of Johannesburg instance and the City of Nelson Mandela Bay instance, the kingmakers have been highly rewarded. And that is what we are suggesting, so that it creates a bit more peace in the municipality, a bit more stability politically, and the people of the City of Johannesburg, as is Nelson Mandela Bay, would benefit from this arrangement. Why are we making this suggestion? When last, except for once in eThekwini, did you hear in KZN them saying, we are bringing a motion of no confidence in the mayor? When last? Anyone? All municipalities in KZN are collective executive municipalities, all of them, all 54. Meaning that all of the parties that got highest number of seats have a space in the EXCO are part of executive decision making. When you hear individuals speaking from KZN about what happens in an EXCO system, this is what they say. And I have had the benefit of listening to people that have been in power, lost power, and are now just in the EXCO. But they've been part of political decision making, well, executive decision making. And they would say, you are forced in an EXCO to agree. Work together. You are sitting here around the table. You are forced to work together. You must come up with a solution that you are going to table at council. By the time you get to council, all of us were there. But it also requires those that may have the highest number of seats to listen to those that are part of the EXCO. And so one mayor said to me, well, once he lost his position and is now just a member of EXCO, would say, well, in EXCO, I raise my issues. And then I get to council, and I then realize when I see the report, everything that I had said as a minority in the EXCO is included in the report. And so council meetings are much shorter. They are more focused than what you would find in a mayoral executive system. So KZN is a perfect example of why it can work for us if we do the same in all of the other municipalities. Of course, it is not going to be easy. It has implications when we do this. And those implications are, of course, there will be no executive mayor. There will just be a mayor that will be elected from the EXCO. You can't change the EXCO. That's the beauty. You can change the persons, but the political parties retain their seats in the EXCO. And the members of the EXCO will then take up the portfolio head positions and account to EXCO for the execution. So what happens? There's a rigorous oversight already taking place in EXCO. Doesn't require council. Within EXCO, political parties are overseeing each other on those portfolios that are allocated to those respective political parties. Unfortunately, the standing rules would have to change, delegations would have to change to then to take into account these models. And probably the biggest concern to everyone is that you are going to have to elect a new mayor. And that mayor, nice thing, it must be a person who's already in the EXCO. So parties would allocate, based on the number of seats, would allocate who is going to take up their seats. And then from that collective executive, you would then elect a mayor. So it's limited to who is in there. And unfortunately, that would have to be done. In many coalitions, you would say, oh, you're not sure where they are going to retain the person who is the mayor. So sometimes we must have, they would say that in a war, there are casualties for the greater good. And maybe some of the casualties will be some of the sitting mayors in those coalitions, but it would be the interest of the greater good. Thank you very much.
But thank you very much, Mr. Jewel. Can we give him another round of applause? So clearly there is some thought in terms of how we can structure things moving forward, as proposed in the presentation by Mr. Jewel. I would like to bring Dr. Bowl. Is it Bowl or Bole? Bole. Hey, wait again. What is this Dr. Bull? I Googled him and I like, oh, okay. Yeah. Dr. Bull, because Bole Mr. Paul, is since this whole process of coalitions is about stakeholders, different people coming together for hopefully the same purpose, is gonna engage with us on the engagement frameworks that can be applied in line with what we just heard from Mr. Jewel. So let's give Dr. Bole a round of applause.
No, thank you very much, Chair. You know, you reminds me of my friend. You know, when you said Dr. Bowles, he knows himself. Ever since, he has been calling me Bowles. I don't know why. And as the chairperson of Salga in the Northwest Province, Mr. Molefe Khumalo, let me acknowledge you, Chair, and the entire PEC collective. And also let me appreciate the invitation from Salga to create this stage. For me, by the way, I'm here got my personal capacity, so that there should not be any confusion that I'm representing a provincial government or a department. I'm invited by Salga, and thank you very much, as a political and social scientist on the matter that I'm going to deal with. So I would appreciate that councillors, colleagues who are here to view that presentation in that context. And I must say thank you very much, Salga, and let me recognize the president of Salga in absentia. I see he's not here. And Tate Khumalo as the provincial chair of Salga and your PC collective, mayors, executive mayors. I think the list is long. Let me acknowledge you, all of you. I think we are going to engage on a very interesting subject and a very sensitive one and a highly charged subject, because it's unfortunate that the presentation is going to talk to some of the specific municipalities. Because based on this particular subject, I've undertook a scientific study to check how Section 139 intervention actually was applied in the Northwest Province. And I engaged on a number of case studies, which include Makamudiri Mulema District Municipality. I wrote a chapter on Ngaka. I wrote a chapter on Madibe local municipality. I wrote a chapter on the city of Matosana. So those were basically my case studies. I've engaged with those municipalities just to get to understand how Section 139 intervention was applied in the Northwest Province, whether it yielded a positive result or not. So the outcome of my study, quite frankly, it indicated that this Section 139 intervention never yielded any positive results. And I'm going to justify. And ultimately, I'm going to give some perspective in terms of how best can we deal with this. And over and above that, there is also a bill which was actually issued by Parliament, I think last year, in February, to regulate Section 139 intervention. And I checked with some of my colleagues for Parliament, and they were saying that bill is still there. It has never reached any traction. I don't know what's happening. And my take is that indeed there was a need for the bill just to regulate how best can Section 139 intervention. Many people have said this Section 139 intervention, it has been applied just to take over power in specific municipalities. Once the executive mayor or the collective of Ngaka doesn't agree with those who are in provincial executive council, they'll use their power to intervene and actually take control over the municipality. We'll just check whether this is true or not. Yeah, let's, oh, which one? Oh, let's see. Oh, I see. Technology. I wanted to use mine. Oh, all right. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation. I'm just going to give a brief context and just to remind all of us the 5 types of Section 139 constitutional interventions. I'm just reminding you, colleagues, so that when we engage further, I'm just laying the foundation. Then the landmark court judgments, I think I've learned a lot from those court judgments on the basis that there is no literature, Prof. We ran out of literature. Many people, in fact, they wrote articles, but they were not addressing what actually I've actually tried to address in my research. There are no books. It was very difficult. So in the main, I relied on the landmark court judgment as an authority to begin to make sense of actually what is going on. And the state of local government in the Northwest within the context of Section 139, and of course, the application of the Section 139 and the impact thereof, whether it was successful or failures. And of course, I'll talk about the bill that I've spoken about. You'll all remember that in terms of the Constitution, Section 100, subsection 3, it also gives power that Parliament can initiate the regulation to regulate that. And in terms of Section 139, subsection 8, also that provision in the Constitution gave also power to Parliament to begin to initiate a regulation, regulatory framework. And of course, lastly, I'll deal with my concluding perspectives. I think those who were empowered to draft the Constitution were very intelligent, because it's very clear that at some point they envisaged that there will be a possibility that local government will fail to actually respond to their constitutional mandate, and therefore let's bring this provision. In case that happens, then we'll then invoke these mechanisms to can actually intervene. You know, so I think they were very clever. So they envisaged that municipalities will run into trouble in terms of responding to Section 152 as outlined in our Constitution. Again, as I said, we are just reminding ourselves that according to our Constitution, there are 5 types of Section 139 interventions. One is that Section 139, subsection 1A, it allows the Provincial Executive Council of any province, if it feels that these municipalities actually are not fulfilling their executive obligation, to issue out a directive in terms of that section. If things are not happening in terms of the directives, then again, the Constitution provides that Section 139(1)B will then be invoked, so that the team must actually go and help the municipality. If the situation is not changing, the drastic step is taken. And in this case, the Constitution says in the exceptional circumstances, then you invoke Section 139(1)C to dissolve municipal council. And fourthly, this one got to do with the financial intervention. If your council fails to adopt the budget, then the Section 139 subsection 4 can be invoked by the province. Again, if you've got a serious financial crisis as a municipality, then Section 139 subsection 5 can be invoked to impose the recovery plan by the province. Right. So let's let's now, the reason why I've picked up the issue of executive obligation vis-a-vis the statutory obligation. I think it was very interesting by the courts to define the two. And I just want us, just for us to get this thing right, because you see, sometimes this wording, it's a problem. So I felt it's very important because in terms of section 139, subsection 1, they are talking about non-fulfillment of executive obligation. I think for me is very key. And there is also the issue of statutory obligation. So I tried to borrow from one of the landmark court judgment. They are saying statutory obligation aimed at ensuring the effective fulfillment of executive obligation, right? Statutory right, we'll come to that, does not necessarily result in a failure to fulfill an executive obligation. So this statement, you find it in paragraph 65 of the judgment municipality. This is what the judge said. Now, mayor's failure to submit annual report constitute non-compliance with the statutory obligation, but did not result in failure to fulfill an executive obligation. Very interesting. You see, Executive Mayor Nikiwe. And now when the section 139 is applied in some instances, it will be applied on the basis of failure, non-compliance, and which is incorrect. We'll deal with this one. Now, executive obligation meant provision of basic services. Now, Van Zyl defined it to say executive obligation meant provision of basic services. What are the basic services? All of us, we know. Okay, this is the case number. This is the case number. Now, I was listening to the provincial chair of the province yesterday was saying there is an improvement. He was celebrating the improvement on the compliance issue, on the submission of annual financial statement of the municipalities. Now, the percentage, it has gone high. But to myself, I was saying, Councillor Molefe, to say, I wish you can celebrate the contents of those submissions. You get the drift. What is contained there? What is contained? That was my wish. I said, oh my goodness, are we lowering the bar here or what's going on? but it's fine. We start with the compliance first. Okay, so we'll get into the contents. So the issue of, my take is that the issue of statutory obligation, it was anything to do with the policy issue and the compliance issue. You develop a policy, and then the statute, then your executive, what is this thing? Your executive obligation is the implementation of basic services within the context of the policy. So the principle here is that the application of Section 139 intervention, what needs to happen here is that it must be applied on the basis of non-fulfillment of executive obligation, not failing to submit annual report, not failing in terms of those particular issues. Let's proceed. Okay. This is the first case of Mogalakwena. Okay, here's the case number. Let's quickly go to the PC of Mogalakwena invoked section 139, 1B. Assuming some responsibility of Mogalakwena local municipality. Now the reasons they provided, very interesting. Poor financial management, poor coordination of executive committees, municipal council failure to review IDP budget and all of that. Now, the judge found that a directive must precede an intervention, which did not happen. And it was going to promote very important constitutional values and democracy. Notice of intervention was exceptionally vague. PEC was interdicted and restrained from intervening, and it lost the case. Now, you see, this provision, the drafters of the Constitution, they never brought in this provision to punish the municipality, right? They never brought this provision so that punitive, so that or covert activity should be invoked against the municipality. They were very positive. The message here, the judge says, if you've got any reason to believe that there is a collapse of service delivery in a specific municipality, the important thing first, what you need to do, we all know that section 154 it has been implemented, whether there is an intervention or not. 154 is given from the province. But now, if you've got the belief that this municipality is failing in terms of its to fulfill executive obligation, the first thing, when you invoke section 139, 1A, you write to the municipality to say, look, man, can you attend the following? Can you please attend the following? And you don't write and wait for their response while you've got the intention to invoke B and C. No, you write in good faith, right? You write in good faith. And the municipality then will have to respond and say, look, yeah, we'll attend to this, right? And to the extent that even the province, during that stage, they can even send 1 or 2 officials to go and help the situation during section 139, A, you know, the directives. And if all fail in that context, and the court says, then you must actually, going forward, then as a provincial executive council, you must then provide an evidence just on section 139(1)A, just to give an indication to say to what extent if you actually tried to help the municipality. Then as a province, you say, look, these are the following, right? Then the municipality then will have to respond to say, blah, blah, blah. Then the province will have to assist. But if the situation doesn't change, then the province will then say, no, let me invoke section 139(1)B. Now, section 139(1)B then will go there with a team. We don't send an administrator, and I think, Prof, they are using, when we invoke section 139(1)B, you can call it a team leader or you can call it a team of intervention, but you are not saying you are sending an administrator there. The Constitution doesn't say the administrator, you can send administrator when you have dissolved the council. So this thing of administrator, it has been applied, it has been applied very blindly and so on. Right? So the judge here, he was actually saying, you need first to, before you send your, I like this way, directive must precede an intervention. It means, please, buffet the directive before okay. So, Rona, what we do, we give directives and another intention again. So that is the problem. So the judge generally, if we have an assessment nationally, where the municipality took the PEC to court, the municipality, by and large, they've win those cases on the basis of some of these things, you know. Okay, let's go to Mnuma. I'm not sure whether there are Xhosa speaking people. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing correct. Now, Numa, okay. The PC dissolved the council in terms of section 139, 1C, due to failed executive obligation. Now, the applicants, that is the municipality, complained that the old alterum rule was not applied. Council was not informed of what it had supposedly done wrong, nor it had been given the opportunity to refute the allegation. You see? Applicant council argued that intervention by way of dissolution is only warranted in exceptional circumstances. You can debate what is the exceptional circumstances, Mr. Vance. It's debatable. Now, the judge found that the PC did not indeed not have solid ground to justify the dissolution and set aside the decision as ultra vires and irrational. I think it was very reckless. This is what I was saying, right? To say it can't be that basically here is the same thing. You don't give a municipality an opportunity to respond, but then you go to the extent of dissolving the municipality. So the judge, based on the law, so they will always protect the integrity and the integrity of the constitution if there is a reckless implementation. Now this one, this one, the case of DA councillors took the Provincial Executive Committee Council Gauteng to court. You remember? It had a lot of, and really, if you spend some time, Comrade Nikiwe, or read that judgment, you can see there was a serious attitude from the provincial government. Oh, sorry, Councillor Nam. Okay, last time I checked, she was a comrade. Okay. Yeah, no, not yet. It's true. So this one had also a lot of dramas. Gauteng dissolved the metro on the basis of issue of water and electricity, the issue of revenue collection, debt management, weaknesses in governance and accountability, corruption and maladministration, high rate of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, the issue of the tender. Now, to summarize this, the court held that there must be a direct link between the exercise of power. For an example, the decision to dissolve the municipal council and objective is sought to be achieved. Very interesting here. Critical question asked by a judge, whether the metro will be able to fulfill its obligation after the intervention was over. Otherwise, the dissolution and the replacement of newly elected council will serve no purpose. It's a very critical question. If you are taking these drastic steps, are we sure that the newly constituted council will not do the same thing? And it's a very difficult to make a determination. And Councillor Kumar, it's a very difficult to set the question. My research is, in fact, that one is a public knowledge. When Ngakamudiri Mulema was dissolved in 2014-15, dissolution, there was a by-election. The newly constituted council, within 3 to 4 months, they requested for Section 139, 1B. Now, we are now getting into briefly the state of local government in the Northwest. Now, the Northwest, it has actually made history in the country since the dawn of democracy, I must say, right? Let's look, let's see what's happening here. No. Sorry. Where are we? Back. Oh, Oh, okay, okay. Okay, no, sorry, councillors. Now here, from September 2018, the Provincial Executive Council of the Northwest placed 8 municipalities under Section 139 intervention. Right? Prof, within 8 months, there was additional 7. Huh? Within a period of additional 7 were placed under administration. These are the municipalities. Then at that time, out of total of 22, 15 were placed under administration, and then that constitutes 68%. You see, Speaker. No, I don't want to get into that debate, but that is the reality. You see? It's a very sad story. Now we need to ask ourselves critical questions as to whether, and from this, the outcome of this research, it clearly indicates that the manner in which this application is executed, there is something wrong about it. And that is the something that actually Salga must actually begin to discuss this issue and begin to pronounce itself to say, based on some of this glaring information that is out there, how do we begin as Salga to position ourselves to make sure that we add some, weight into this application of Section 139? Your voice, how do you begin to advise properly to say, based on the experience and what the research has revealed, this is our position as Salga whenever you implement Section 139. I'm happy that the bill also recognized Salga when municipalities placed under administration to say Salga must also become a body that must also be notified in terms of this. It's contained in the bill, you see. So it's a very sad story, and I think Salga will have to talk to this issue as well. This is where we are now. These are the case studies that I was talking about. Okay, let's check. Nakamudiri Mulema was placed under this 4 times. It's in Aka, right? In 2020, 2029, 2010, it was B. 2014, 15, C, it was dissolved immediately. This is what I was talking about. Immediately, then there was a request based on the newly constituted council to say what the intervention. You see, so this is what happened. And then lastly, 2018-19, and I'm not sure, Councillor Molefanda, your leadership, whether you are going to brand yourself with this intervention. Now, Madibeng. Now, Madibeng is the highest. The mayor was here. I saw the mayor. The speaker is also here. In the history of the province, since the dawn of democracy, Madibeng was placed under administration 5 times. Right? 2002, this financial year was under B. 2013-14, B again. 14-15, B, and all of that. The city of Matlasana, Councillor Speaker, 3 times, 99, 2014, and all of that. So what does this tell us? It tells us that I'm not too sure. Maybe the provincial council will have to, I don't know. But basically, as a social scientist, it says to me, there was no regard, or there was no, how best can I put it? This issue of intervention, I think, was used for something else. Because if really it was genuine, the first intervention, or it is the second, it must produce results. But it goes to the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th, and it becomes normal. then something is not right. You see, Mr. Lance? Oh, ke ko tšhelete, ne? Yeah, okay. All right, okay, the latest one, all of us we know, is the Tsobotla, recently dissolved, right? There is a rerun. And, okay, and Kahisano Molopo. And then the following, Madibe Ditsobotla, before dissolution, Ramutsiri, Dr. RSM, Ketlen, Tsoying, and Mahikin were placed under section 139, subsection 5. This is a recovery, financial recovery plan. Okay, let's proceed. Now, I just want to explain this graph. I think it's very important. You'll also find it in my thesis. It's very easy to access that thesis. It's in the library of the Northwest Province. I want to explain this. Now, this situation, Mr. Lance. Yeah, Ash, can I have a Ruby mic? Are you asleep? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Now, this graph is Madibe, right? It basically indicates that section 139 intervention, it has never yielded any positive results, right? Now, let's do this. You see, 2019, 2010, there was an intervention. Okay? There was an intervention. But then 2012, 2013, after this intervention, municipality got qualification. No? The one very close, 2013, 14, there was an intervention. And at the time of intervention, the municipality got a qualified audit opinion at the time of intervention. And ordinarily we will then expect that there must be some change. But then 2014-15, again, during the time of intervention, the municipality got a qualification. But look what actually happens, councillors. After 2014-15, the municipality then got disclaimer, right? After the intervention, the municipality got disclaimer 3 consecutive years, 2016, 17, 17, got disclaimer, 18, 19, right? What is even worse, after this, there was an intervention, 2018, 19, then at that time got disclaimer. I'm sorry, Councillor Mayor. This is a reality in the speaker. So what does this tell us? What's going on here? Okay, let's go to the other municipality. Ngaka Modiri Molemo. Ngaka Modiri Molemo, 2009-10, there was an intervention. 2012-13, disclaimer, right? And then disclaimer. 2014-15, intervention again. And that time, there was a disclaimer. Immediately after this intervention, there was a disclaimer, and then adverse. So your problems are huge, Councillor Molefe. You have inherited a very serious, yeah. They'll give you full presentation, it's fine. Okay, let's quickly go to, Matlosana, yes. Okay, Matlosana, somewhere there, the research indicates there was some intervention, and I think this was at the beginning when who formalized the system of local government, right? But let's leave this. Let's quickly go here. 2012, 13, it got disclaimer. At least after this intervention, there was a qualified. 2014, 15, then the qualified, then qualified. You see, Matlosana, I remember there was some traction. Remember when the team led by Ntate Ramakhaga. And in fact, before Ntate Ramakhaga, there was a financial intervention in Matlosana led by the Paul. Paul, I've forgotten his name. He was working for Auditor General. Then there was, in terms of financial intervention, there was some change because Matlosana at that time could not actually service their debts, ESCOM, motor, and so on. So there was that a little bit of that intervention, a little bit of positive results. And then after financial intervention, there was a full-blown Section 139, 1B intervention led by Seth Ramakhaga. So, yeah. And then at that time, they managed to service their debts, as far as I remember. I was all over the radio as a spokesperson by that time to say the municipality now is in the position to service their debts. They are paying water 5 million per week or 15 or 10 million. There was a little bit of traction, right? Let's proceed. Now, this is the summary of 3 municipalities. Summary of 3 municipalities. 1 is disclaimer, 2 adverse, 3 qualified, 4 unqualified. Look at 2017-18. I see the colors are not so visible. I think it's Madibeng and Ngaka at that time. They got disclaimer. For interest's sake, I had to analyze the 3 just to check what is going on. I think, it's Madibeng and Ngaka. You see, 3 consecutive years, these 3 municipalities, Madibeng and Ngaka, I don't know what is it that they are sharing, but 3, it's water. Oh, that's why it's water. No, you are correct, it's water. This is where the money is, actually, it's water. So this is the state of affairs. And then from there, disclaimer. There was qualified, I think Matlosana. And then this one, basically, this one is just for the interest's sake, just to share with you leadership of Salga about the similarities of this. Let's now proceed. Now, I took some time, Prof, just to check what are the constitutional gaps in our constitution in as far as the implementation of Section 139 intervention is concerned. And of course, I've realized that the constitution does not provide the time frames for intervention. It's us, the Provincial Executive Council, they feel no, we'll send you for 6 months, I fell for 12 months. And we can't blame the province because the constitution doesn't provide time frames. That's why the bill is important to close this gap. It does not provide terms of reference of the intervention team. It's not there in the constitution. Then can you imagine the Provincial Executive Council then taking an opportunity and advantage to couch their own terms of reference to say this is what you are going to do in that municipality. Because of the municipality is not clued up with this application of Section 139, they'll always accept, others they reject it, it goes to court, it gets tested in courts, and so on and so forth. The Constitution does not have a provision for administrator during Section 139(1)(b), except 139(1)(c). Agreed? It does not outline the roles and responsibilities of the administrator and council during 1391B intervention, except when someone assuming the municipal executive on behalf of the province. You see, so this is the problem, and this is where the tension arises. When the team arrive, Kumaspale, then there will be a serious tension between the intervention team, the council, including municipal officials, right? Because the intervention, they become authority, they don't listen to council, they don't listen to everybody, they become arrogant and they do as they wish. Because the constitution doesn't tell us what needs to happen, doesn't regulate that relationship. It does not prescribe which structure should be finished with regular report by the intervention team. Except to say that the structure that must be notified is the relevant provincial legislature and so on. So it's a problem. And then the council has the right, they will complain to say, these people are here, right in our municipality. They don't give us the reports. We don't know what they are doing here. They don't engage us. They're doing absolute nothing. They are very arrogant. They are saying, actually, we are being sent by the Provincial Executive Council here. But then they are forgetting as the team that in order to achieve your mission as a team, you must harness the relations. You must create a very conducive environment, work with the officials, work with the councillors so that you can achieve your mission. But this is that they become arrogant. And I think my take is that that's why the Maspale kept on the Buelago section 139 because of that kind of a relationship. Yeah, it does not prescribe minimum qualifications. I will talk about this issue. Okay. I think we'll talk about my observations. So in this case, councillors, I spoke about the bill. There is a current bill. Please, you can access it in the website. Just go through it and see what does that bill seeks to achieve. I don't know what happened. Is our people asleep? Where is the slide? Oh, they're chasing me away. No. They're chasing me away. Let me conclude. Remember, the current practice, the issue of the closeout report. Ne? In terms of the current intervention, it's not present. Sometimes it's not presented at all, right? And this was evident. The closeout report intervention team just go. Now the bill says, section 90 subsection 1 stipulate that when an intervention in terms of section 100 or 39 ends, the administrator deployed there within 14 days. Within 14 days, that administrator or that team must actually provide the closeout reports. Now the department, the current practice, the Department of Local Government advertise for intervention, names not gazetted. Sometimes the department engaged in and hunting. Now here the bill provides the solution in terms of what needs to happen. No person may be, for the purpose of intervention, be deployed as unless the name of that person appears on a list of an approved deployed, or rather an approved list. And of course, the current practice also, the issue of skills and competence are considered for the deployment, and this process is not regulated. And then here the bill tried to regulate what needs to happen. So this bill closes the gaps. So no, it's coming. But I see there is no appetite of dealing with it. I don't know why. Because this bill was yeah, okay. Lance, you remember this bill? It's a bill of February 2021. Yeah, now we are in the end of 2022. So no traction. But let me go to my, this is the issue that I was talking about earlier, Councillor Kumalo. The current practice in terms of the constitution. Yeah, no, I'm about to finish. Oh, okay. No, 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 yes. Oh, indication or I'm starting now. No, sorry. No, the current practice, when we implement section 139, the structures that must be notified, we know that is the legislature, is the NCOP, is the minister of local government. So the bill says there are additional structures, so they must be notified. Organized local government nationally and in the relevant province. So they've added structures which must be notified. So Salga, you are also there. So these are my observations. I'm working towards the conclusion. Lack of experience and capacity on the part of intervention teams. This is what I've picked up in Ngaka, Matosane, and the Madibeng colleagues there. They were saying, no, some of the team members, they are not clued up with regard to local government issues. Closeout report were not properly handled to assist the municipality. Because what is even worse, one of the municipalities said, we'll wake up in the morning and we'll be told that that intervention team was dismissed. It's no longer here. So what I've observed that the intervention, it has never yielded any positive results. Instead, the situation became worse. Remember, I've shared that information with you. Specific or relevant obligations were not identified. This is very critical. You see, even during the section 1391B, Councillor Molefe, the province must be specific in terms of identifying non-fulfillment of executive obligation. It must not come and then take over. They must be specific. Yeah, we are intervening on the basis of water and basic services, then they must deal with that particular issue. But in most cases, they intervene, they take over. The intervention team, okay, this one I spoke about. In most cases, the start and the end date, you'll never remember it. And it's not even clear how it's a research or this municipality was placed this time. When did this intervention end? You'll never find it, you'll struggle. And then during the intervention, you see NCOP, COCTA, legislature to some extent, they don't do their work. They drop the ball. This is what I've observed. And then a lack of cooperation between the municipal council and the personnel during the intervention. Honale power struggle there. And once there is a power struggle, it means that intervention will not achieve its mission. Okay. Okay, I've spoken about this one. The example is that you need to identify that specific non-fulfillment of executive obligation. This is an example. Okay, these are some of the issues that actually during the presentation I spoke about. I just want to deal with this thing. You see, I don't know, maybe Salga, you need to assist. Prof, this issue analyze section 46, 47, 48 reports. Maybe we need to assist what happens to these reports. Section 46, it's the municipality consolidate their annual report to the legislature. The MEC of COCTA consolidate the annual report of all the municipalities in terms of section 47, and the minister in terms of section 48 consolidate the report of the performance of the municipalities in the country and so on. But what happens to those reports? Because my take is that during those reports, they must actually, when you analyze and dissect them, they must actually give you an indication that these municipalities in the Northwest Province, based on the consolidated report of Section 47, there are weaknesses there and there and there and there. And then how then you begin to invoke or rather strengthen the implementation of Section 154. How do we then begin to deal with that? So these reports, I don't know what happens. Maybe Salga will assist. I don't know, because annual performance report, my take is that it must be engaged upon, and then you need to pick up where the weaknesses are. You should be in the position to at least to begin to see, oh, there is a poor performance in terms of these municipalities. Let's then begin to strengthen our intervention measure in terms of Section 154. So I think I should be done. Thank you very much, Vaya Dangi Realevo.
Quality clap. Pasi. I got it. Pasi. All right, Chair.
No, thank you very much. It's not a question. I'm getting a little bit worried. We may collapse the PMA if we don't manage time. I am going to request, remember what we are dealing with is yesterday's work. So I'm going to request the two facilitators coming. Remember that your portion was for yesterday. We still have a lot, organizational reports and other critical reports. And I want to say this in advance, no one is allowed to leave unless leave of absence is authorized by the Provincial Executive Committee. Thank you, we may proceed.
Yeah. Ms. Velen. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Bole. There's only one line that I can think of, knowledge is power. Yeah, I think that's one thing that I picked up from your presentations. It does tie together, empowering as well. I think there was a lot of resonance with what you shared. So thank you so much for that. Now that we have had the two presenters, that gives us two perspectives which are interlinked, I would like to then bring forth the, let's say, external, internal, so we can give us a view of what they think of this situation scenario on collisions and also the constitutionalism of what we are dealing with. So we are going to bring to the fore Professor Sam Koma from the University of the Northwest. Let's give him a nice round of applause.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate the invitation that I got from Salga Northwest. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here and also to learn from colleagues in the sector, but also to come and share our perspectives that are largely informed by the research that we undertake and also the publications that we also publish as part of knowledge sharing and also dissemination of knowledge. I have prepared some slides. Just load that. So I've got two components to the presentation. I promised to finish the presentation within 15 minutes. And the reason I'm saying that is because part of what I'll be reflecting on around coalition arrangement and coalition related issues are partly and largely being covered by Lance. And also I want to say at the outset that there's no caucus that took place. You realize that the examples that he used, they're also part of my presentation. The other arguments and also the other suggestions that are part of his presentation are also part of what I've also prepared on. So there is a point of convergence. There are no extremes between the two presenters. there is a point of convergence on a number of issues. The first issue is around what is the best and appropriate and feasible model of managing a municipal coalition arrangement. His position is that the collective executive system is the appropriate model that can be utilized and applied in the context of a hung council. So you realize that the 2021 local government elections resulted into about 80 to 86 hung councils, unprecedented for the first time, because we thought the 2016 local government elections, of course, it delivered on hung councils, but relatively were few. But we never thought that the 2021 will result into a larger number of these hung councils. And what becomes the best way of navigating through this situation, unprecedented. And that is the reason Salga and through other stakeholders, obviously COCTA, they are now saying, no, let's learn from eThekwini. Okay, since 2000 to date, they've applied the collective executive system. It has not resulted into political paralysis, dysfunctionality, and invoking of Section 139 as per the Constitution. So we're learning from eThekwini to say this is the best way of running a hung council, because it allows all the parties that contested the election to be proportionally represented in ESCO, okay, chaired by the mayor. All of them collectively elected by the municipal council. Okay, so they go into council, it's a collective responsibility, it's collective accountability, as opposed to the mayoral exec system that we are saying and arguing that it is not the best model to apply in the context of a hung council. And that is the reason we're having these constant political tensions, disagreements, because of the system that is being applied. So that's one point of convergence. I'm not sure what's happening to my slides. Oh, sure. Yeah, but the other point that we are also agreeing on is around what is missing in the current municipal coalition agreements. A deadlock breaking mechanism is not being provided for. In the event there is this impasse, there are these disagreements, what becomes an alternative dispute resolution mechanism to resolve the impasse? So we're saying that should also be provided for in the guidelines, and of course, the possible legislative reform that may come into the future to say, let's insert that as part of managing this coalition arrangement, or part of managing this municipal coalition issue. So that is also a key, but very also important is what informs these parties when they go into a coalition arrangement. One, is it a principle-based position that there is alignment in terms of our principles, in terms of our policy positions, before we can even discuss and agree on the positions? So the evidence that is coming out is that there seems to be no principled policy-based position among these parties that agree and negotiate a municipal coalition arrangement. They seem to be more fixated with the positions. And that is also the point that Lance also touched on, to say this is what is becoming evident since the inception of this set of municipal coalition arrangements that we have so far. So those are some of the issues we are canvassing that they need to be considered and also be properly thought through as part of packaging this as part of the legislative reform that we want to see. So I've covered quite a number of issues. I'll go straight to, yes, this is the point I wanted to emphasize, that there seemed to be a narrative to demonize and also to discredit these coalition governments. And I'm saying that narrative needs to be dispelled, okay? Because it's devoid of facts and evidence. And the point I'm advancing is the second bullet, to say the notion that municipal coalition governments impedes provision of service delivery should be dispelled. In contrast, ample evidence points to the fact that majority-led municipal councils have, over the past two decades, resulted into political paralysis and dysfunctionality plus Section 139 interventions. And the 2009 COCTA diagnostic report affirms this point. Then there were no coalition governments, but COCTA, part of the work that they did, you remember there were a number of service delivery protests and also unrest around that, political instability, issues of accountability. COCTA intervened in terms of saying, let's better understand the situation, what seems to be at play, and the report affirms that. So any narrative contrary to this observation will be ahistorical and amount to reductionism, okay? Because we are looking at the current state, forgetting that there is a COCTA 2009 report that already gave us a signal that there are serious issues facing local government in totality. And it proposed some measures, hence LGTAS, back to basics approach, resulted out of this particular report. To say, let's go back to basics. Let's try to find feasible, workable, and also realistic interventions and solutions to address the problem. So any electoral outcome in a democratic order is informed by the will of the people, whether I'm a 1-seat party, I'm a 10-seat party, or a 15-seat party. That is the will of the people. We have a hung council as political parties. How do we come together, find one another, find a middle ground as part of responding to these electoral mandates that have been given to us by the electorate? So the lessons going forward, I've already touched on this. The third and fourth bullet are very important. I'm saying it is encouraging that the MEC for local government in Gauteng is considering the very same point Lens alluded to, the collective executive system to stabilize the metro. The same in the Nelson Mandela Bay. We're seeing the MEC that side also saying this is the way to go in terms of stabilizing the metro. So in my view, the setback about the current municipal coalition government talks, negotiations, is that the process is engineered and dealt with at the national level by the party bosses to the exclusion of the local party leaders who are in the situation, dealing with the issues, and very au fait with the needs, the expectations, the demands of the communities that they're serving. So the argument I'm making is that give them space to negotiate these coalition agreements or talks, because they're peers anyway. But we're seeing typical of the colonial administrative setup, okay? The colonial administration, this is how they ran their governments. So you have a top-down kind of approach. The guys at the lower level being dictated upon and also given directives. So that is the reason some of the party bosses are listing demands that are inimical to local issues. For example, establishment of a state bank. How does that link with a local government electoral mandate? So this makes of political opportunism, and it deprives communities of a constitutional duty to participate in the affairs of local government. The residents voted for their ward and PR councillors based on issues resonating with their plight, aspirations, and needs. So I'll skip through some of this. So one can only wish to see a situation where local party leaders are trusted, respected, and afforded an opportunity to drive this municipal coalition government talks based on the issues that are peculiar and unique to the circumstances. In a nutshell, the local state is being undermined and weakened. So history is replete with examples of failed imposition of political solutions driven centrally without taking into account the circumstances on the ground, but also without affording the local actors, the local political leaders at the local level to drive the process. So I'm saying that is the limitation that we're observing. So the other crucial point is that one could wish that in the spirit of accountability, transparency, and public interest, which forms the bedrock of democratic local government, all municipal coalition government agreements will be made public, because till this day, we don't know what is contained in the agreements. We can't see them. They're not being disseminated to members of the public so that we can hold these parties accountable, that we have agreed on these terms and conditions. So at the core of these agreements is first and foremost the basic needs of communities that require prioritization for the next 5 years of term of office of municipal councils, coupled with the political office bearers, through adoption and implementation of sound integrated development plans, realistic and pro-poor municipal budgets, and provision of affordable, sustainable, and uninterrupted municipal public services. So I've touched on the issue of the deadlock breaking mechanisms, but the second point, which also Lance touched on, he said he examined all the election manifestos of the parties. I did the same, but it baffles me why some of the parties or these parties are on record having said that they are not willing to work with party A or B, because when one examines their election manifestos, they all converge on one point, which is to build competent and developmental-oriented municipalities. However, they all diverge in terms of tactics. The other one says we'll insource, the other party says we'll end corruption, the other one says no, we'll invite the private sector as part of providing these quality services in the most efficient and effective manner. So there could be a common ground that is reached by the parties because fundamentally they agree on one point. So unless the basis of their objections or preferences is about egos, grandstanding, or exaggerated sense of self-importance, kingmaker status, one seat party, okay, without looking at the broader issues that needs to be prioritized for the sake of delivering on their mandates. So ideologically, these parties are not far apart in terms of what needs to be done to improve the performance of municipalities. So in summation, municipal council as the governing body of a municipality should be fit for purpose and well positioned to grapple with the changing needs and expectations of local communities in the context of a coalition arrangement. Local government is increasingly becoming a terrain of contestation based on varying political ideologies and policy orientation of political parties and political actors. So this calls for councillors to be agile, flexible, and open to work on non-partisan basis, especially around issues of policy and also political programs, in order to act and decide in the best interest of their local communities on issues before the municipal council. Thus, political maturity, astuteness, and judgment of councillors are the sine qua non necessary condition for the future of local government under the auspices of coalition governments in South Africa. So this is the first part. Let me quickly move to section 139. So I will not get more into the case studies. I'm glad Dr. Boule has comprehensively covered that section. So the Northwest is a classic example. We have experienced quite a number of these section 139 interventions, and the reasons are varied, some political, others relates to governance, administrative, and financial issues. But the purpose of my presentation in this instance is to dwell into contextual and constitutional issues that have come to the fore. Dr. Boule touched on Mpuma case, the Mogalakwena case, and the Gauteng Premier versus the DA case, classic judgments that are all affirming one point, to say provincial governments should find less intrusive measures before they invoke section 139. And what are those less intrusive? The Constitution provides for those, section 155 and section 154. Monitor, provide support, capacitate, before you resort to section 139. So all these judgments are confirming that part to say there is a trend that these provincial governments, they are not even self-reflecting on their own. To what extent we have failed as a provincial government to capacitate, to monitor and support municipalities before they invoke section 139. So interesting points that are also articulated in the Gauteng judgment. Later I'll look into that. So these are selected municipalities with history of section. So we didn't share the notes. This is not plagiarized. Dr. Bule, you touched on this. I'm glad yesterday, Mr. CBC from AG office, he touched on that. He said there is ineffective provincial interventions based on these audit outcomes that we are seeing over a consecutive period of 5 years. So this situation raises critical questions regarding the efficacy of provincial interventions in resolving the perennial governance and accountability lapses of municipalities. One, are these interventions cost effective for financially strained municipalities? The answer is no. Are there no other effective and less intrusive measures that could be instituted in improving municipal governance? The answer is yes, because you have section 154, support, monitor, capacitate local government. So those are the measures that we're saying provincial governments should look into. So my contention is very clear. The section 139, 1A to C is not a panacea in remedying or resolving a peculiar problem in a municipality if the AG reports and empirical evidence are anything to go by. So we're not cooking this, we're not manufacturing this. Okay, AG has taken a similar position. Lands through the work done by Salga, they're arriving at the same conclusion. I'm also arriving at the same conclusion. So there are growing number of cases, we are happy about that. Okay, the Mpuma case clarified the issue of executive obligations, statutory obligation. The Mogalakwena case, very interesting case, Dr. Bole touched on that. But the most notable court judgment involves that of the Gauteng Premier versus the DA and others, decided last year, October. Remember, before we got into hard lockdown, NCOP dissolved the city of council, the city of Tshwane, by invoking section 139C. Now, in this judgment, the Concord in part reasoned that corruption is not the prerogative of the municipal council. This is a sickness that requires the full might of the law. So in short, Concord says, if you want to tackle corruption as provincial government, you don't have to invoke section 139. Report the matter to law enforcement. SAPS, the Hawks, the NPA will deal with it because this is not your province. This is not your domain. Okay, so this is what is coming out of the judgment, thus affirming the position taken in the Mogalakwena case. Furthermore, if the provincial government is of the view or opinion that there is a financial crisis, you have section 1394 or 5, not 139, 1A to C. It says, look at those provisions and intervene, okay, accordingly. In terms of section 106 of the Municipal Systems Act, we know that the MEC, has reason to believe that a municipality in his province cannot or does not fulfill a statutory obligation, or that maladministration, fraud, or corruption, or any other serious malpractice has occurred or is occurring in that municipality, he must, by written notice, okay, ask the municipality concerned, furnish me with reasons, okay, because there's this prevailing perception or information that I have. So this persuasive view is also affirmed in the Mogalakwena case, and failure to execute this statutory duty amounts to dereliction of duty on the part of the MEC, because you have Systems Act. Don't run to section 139. Look at this, explore this, because this section empowers the MEC to launch an investigation. Appoint someone who's going to investigate, arrive at the findings, write a report, with recommendations to the MEC to take further action. So furthermore, the Concord, very interesting, reason that there is no provision in our law which states that the use of grants is an executive obligation. In other words, a provincial executive cannot canvass for the dissolution of a municipality on the basis of the fact that you have used 10% of your MIC. Okay, so the Concord is very clear. It says that is not an executive obligation. Don't even put that as a reason to intervene in a municipality because it doesn't fall under executive obligation. Section 105 of the Municipal Systems Act, the same. It empowers the MEC, those less intrusive, monitoring, support, and also capacitate. So finally, in the Mogalakwena case, the Gauteng High Court held that measures provided for in Section 139B are not being used for their proper purpose, but to resolve a political dispute in favor of a preferred political faction within the party in power in the municipality. Thus, public money should not be used to settle such a political dispute. I'm glad Dr. Bole also touched on this part. So this is, in a nutshell, what we have in terms of Section 139. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Let's give a Prof another round of applause. Yeah, clearly there was no plagiarism. So I get you didn't caucus, you didn't what, but the similarities of points raised, case studies are so similar. So it means that we really got the right content today. So thank you very much for the presentation and also you, Prof. Koma, being the resource person in this discussion. So here's what we're going to do. I carry a directive before intervention. Yeah, so now I'm taking directive now. Ne? So the directive that I've just received is that in the interest of time, let us move to the next engagement. And then at the end, we will consolidate all the inputs and questions that we may have to the two panels that we may have. Are we good with that? All right, thank you very much. Thanks to the panel. Round of applause.
Thank you very much. Man. Thank you very much, facilitator, and thank you very much to the panelists. There was no way. I really tried to look for a space where I could cut all of these things, and there was no way. 139 Lidi Coalition, there was, I tried to look for a space where I could intervene and said, but this is enough, but I just could not find it. I could not find it. Thank you very much to the panelists that were there. Dr. Bole, you have given us weapons, you are not aware. You've really given us weapons and you are not aware. We just thought that when we are told for an intervention is coming, we are supposed to say yes. And then life moves on. You have really capacitated us. We were never aware of some of these gaps that are there constitutionally, which actually give councils the power to sit down and go further, go deeper, ask relevant questions before just accepting any kind of interventions. So ke lebogile thata to the panel that just passed here. Now, in the interest of time, we are not going to take questions and comments. All those that have inputs, questions, and comments, please jot them down. And then after debate number 4, we will take a combined and they will be answered as and when. I strongly believe that this debate number 3 that we just went through, it's more of internalizing. It's more of internalizing the information that we have received, because we were shocked at the information that we just received. So let us internalize it and let us move on. In the interest of time, ke kopa go jump already into the next session. Debate number 4. The presenters will be Mr. Michael Chauke, as a specialist, inclusive governance and councillor welfare. The topic is councillor welfare, upper limits safety of councillors. Now, this is the one that I thought would take the whole day. I know when you come to upper limits, councillors don't even want to hear. And the facilitator for this session will be Councillor Gugum Chali, who is the Provincial Working Group Chairperson of Governance, IGR, and Councillor Welfare and Support for Salga Northwest, the Speaker of Moses Kotane, PC member of Salga. And we have also Mr. Rio Noluchungu, Chief Officer, Noluchungu, ne? All right, Chief Officer, Municipal Capabilities and Governance, the topic there, the repurposed local government professionalization model and implementation requirements. Resource people for this panel was Dr. Malebogo Mokhotsi, who's the Senior Advisor, Human Resource, Labor Relations, and Dispute Resolution for Salga Northwest. The scribes for this following session will be Laurentina Zandile. The minutes will be taken by Deboho, Pete, and Lulu. Chairperson, I hand over to you. Thank you very much, Chair. Let me observe the protocol and just say all protocol observed. We have made my life very easy by introducing the panel already and what is expected of them. In fact, Chair, if I were a delegate seated there on this presentation, not facilitating, I was going to request that we just go to questions, because all issues that perhaps may be presented here, they were highlighted by the Salga national chair, national president, highlighted by Councillor Kumalu Mulife. What is the new name? Alderman Timer. Yes. They were also highlighted by the legislature speaker, Councillor Danshe, and also the MEC for Treasury yesterday. So if it was me, I would rise on a motion that we must just go to questions. So I did not lobby you. I'm not lobbying anyone. If it was me, nonetheless, Chair, apart from that, it is incorrect that one must then inform the House that today's debate will be basically concentrating indeed on councillors' welfare and security. It will also be ensuring that we deal with matters of stable municipal administration as the epicenter of this dialogue. It is therefore important that municipalities that continues to undermine the professionalism efforts by appointing unqualified and unsuitable officials in the municipality must hear the Salga's position in this regard. And secondly, Chair, is that perhaps what they are going to do, the members or delegates are now going to give flesh to what will be outlined by our capable presenters in front of me. And delegates and stakeholders will be participating in this regard. It is quite important, Chair, to remember that with all that is going to be presented, the purpose is for the realization of the building better communication and communities in line with today's presentation, or in line with today's assembly theme. And also, Chair, to say the Salga position on the remuneration of councillors will be key on this matter. The presenters will be dealing with it quite extensively. Also that, Chair, the Constitution, Section 195 of the Republic of South Africa is very clear that we need to promote and maintain the high standard of professionalism and ethics as one of the strategic outcomes of the 2022-2027 South African Local Government Strategic Plan.
that needs to have a capable and repeatable local government that should be able to attract and retain, as I said earlier on, this qualified, experienced technicians and management in the system. Without any waste of time, I would then, with due respect, Chair, maybe to correct you, I am told that Ntate Noluchungu Rio is replaced by Ntate April Mbuise. Ne? Yes, so I'm going to hand over to Ntate April Mbuise to take us through to the repurposed local government professionalization model and implementation requirements, and will follow suit with the second presenter who will be dealing with the subject very close to our heart. I wanted to come after, because the upper limit, the transport, and so on and so on. It will then spoil this one. So with that, I will then propose and call forward that April. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning, honorable members. I think you've already touched the background, honorable Program Director, on this one. And I'm happy on that, because it is actually going to assist to make the presentations very much easier, especially we're looking at the time constraints, as the chairperson already said earlier on. But I'm just going to run through the presentation quickly, and I got about 5 areas that I want to talk to on the presentation itself, which then talks to basically the definition of professionalization. You already talked about Section 195 of the Constitution and what it requires out of us. Perhaps a background on the repurposed local government professionalization model that Salga is actually busy with it. To look at the interventions and perhaps the recommendations at the end for PMA. It's a quite long presentation, but I think because of time, I'll try to run through most of it as indicated. While there's no definitive definition beyond professionalization, basically talking to occupation or trade, there's a general consensus on sociology literature that this basically talks to a career, it talks to a job of a particular individual, but it's also got characteristics or elements that's supposed to actually go with it. And those talks to specialized knowledge or skill of that particular individual in that particular trade or job require responsibility. A system of certifying individuals who are in that particular trade, so that we know that before they actually practice, they are actually certified to actually do that particular responsibility that they are expected of them. The same applies even for us as officials. You need to be qualified, as you've said, Chairperson, Program Director, for you to actually assume a particular responsibility, so that you don't just go in and assume a particular responsibility, yet you are not satisfied, not qualified for it. Adherence to high technical standards, because there are standards that governs a particular trade or a particular profession, and that needs to actually be adhered to as well as the high societal ranking of that particular individual. We take a case of a doctor, because they provide a public service, so they actually ranked higher because they know that people's lives are dependent on them. So those are some of the things that we actually frame when we talk about the issue of professionalization, because those are things that even during this PMA have been discussed and talked about, whether it's issues around appointment, it's issues around people being in the job and performing properly, because at the end of the day, all of those, they've got implications on the well-being of our citizens. Professionalization, therefore, would refer to a competence, work practices, ethos, behaviors, attitudes, that we found in a particular profession or in an individual who's actually part of that profession. Challenges unfortunately exist that we don't always find this for one or other reasons. We also find a lot of this been spoken about in local government, that people don't adhere to the ethics that are required of them or to the professional standards, not even adhering to legislation or some pieces of legislation, whether it's issues around financing or procurement or any other. So those are some of the things then that Salga is actually looking at it when we talked about the issues of professionalization. So looking at the issue of professionalization, we also want to promote the ability of local government to be able to deliver on this mandate. And we're looking at issues of managerial, technical, as I've indicated earlier on. So they talk to individuals within the trade itself, but we also look at the institution itself, so that the institutional professionalization, at the end of the day, the sector also should be professionalized. So that's basically the background to that, Chair. But Salga has got a new strategy, as the Chair has actually said. And one of the requirements and the outcomes that we've been given to deliver on as an organization is a reputable, capable and reputable local government. So without being a professional sector or without professionalizing the sector, it is difficult to be reputable. It is difficult to provide capability or be capable because we don't have standards or adhere to standards. Ethics, ethos, behaviors, they differ. So we need to come to a point where we actually deliver a capable and reputable local government that is based on what Section 195 of the Constitution outlines, that we need to be professional as a sector, we need to be professional as individuals within, even the institutions themselves. They also need to display high level of professionalism in the way that they do, because the outcome of all of that professionalization is service delivery, continuous service delivery, uninterrupted service delivery, so that at the end of the day, communities and citizens can actually hold us into high standards. So now the business case, again, as I've indicated, high level of competence, adherence to the Constitution, what requires out of us from Section 195, to be able to deal with issues of disclaimers and audits, which actually paint a very negative picture on local government, and also to actually attract and retain the kind of skills that will require to actually take us forward as a sector. So 2013, then Salga's leadership adopted the professionalization model that has got 4 pillars. And those 4 pillars, they talk to local government service orientation, so that whatever that we do it with the citizens in mind. We'll be able to adhere to Batopili principles, the Local Government Service Charter, the Systems Act, Code of Conduct, and also to look at leadership and managerial profession, which I've said earlier on, that also look at the individuals themselves, to have people who are adherent to professional standards and a high level of competence. We also look at technical professionalism. We need technical acumen in municipalities, engineers, in finance, and all other functional areas of local government. So that's basically what the leadership actually adopted in 2013. And then beyond that, we also look at institutional professionalization, so that we know that the institution itself is a municipality, and ultimately the sector is also professionalized. So there's also critical elements in here, Chairperson, that talks to us as leadership, and the role that we need to play as leadership, that we actually need to make sure that we lead municipalities towards ethical and accountability, compliance management, continuous professional development, so that at the end of the day, we can make sure that we harness this new culture of professionalization, and we ultimately make sure that the institution and the sector is also professionalized. So this is a responsibility, again, that is at leadership level, that you actually assist in driving this, because it will not happen alone. There's a culture in municipality, perhaps of non-compliance, of non-adherence to legislation, and it will require leadership to actually drive us towards that direction. So this is basically some of the things then that are put as a responsibility on leadership to actually lead us, to actually assist us in making sure that the sector at large is professional. The conference earlier on last year, this year, it resolved that we need to mobilize the sector towards the professionalization. We develop a compact towards municipalities, professional bodies, other spheres of government, civil society, to come together and have a system of professionalization that will actually talk to the various elements, whether it is legislation, whether it's professional bodies, at bargaining council level, and many other stakeholders, communities as well, to be part of that. Because at the end of the day, they also need to actually say how we are professional, and actually, so that we are not the only ones who are saying we are professional, but yet the communities are not the ones who are actually putting a stamp on us being professional. Because ultimately, as I was saying earlier on, it goes back to them. Whatever that we do, the kind of service that we provide, professional or adherence to standards, it affects their well-being at the end of the day. Benchmarking exercise also, this is some of the things that we also need to do, that the conference actually said we must actually have, because they actually inform the standards that are in there. They actually inform how we then need to go forward as local government, so that we make sure that we adhere and set standards to adhere to those standards that will actually give us ultimately a capable and a reputable local government. So now the repurposed local, it required then us to actually repurpose the model that was there in 2013 and include a pillar that actually talks to participation of communities, because it wasn't there on those 4 pillars. I've talked about the 4 pillars. I'll just run to the 5th pillar that actually talks to, which is actually informed the repurposed model for local government. And it actually centered around the 5 objects of local government. And 3 of them basically talks to a democratic and accountable local government, provision of services in a manner, sustainable services to communities, and also ensuring that communities, they're actually integral part of municipal governance or governance of a municipality. We also have the Systems Act, Chapter 4, that's also talking to public participation and developing of a culture of inclusivity, so that communities can actually be part of that process. So we actually then came back and actually put in a 5th pillar to make sure that this pillar, also adopted by the NEC of Salga, that it actually takes into cognizance that communities are part and integral part of local government. So we can't leave them behind when we then talk about the issues of professionalization, but they actually need to make sure that they are there as a critical stakeholder. There's also another parallel process that is currently underway through the Department of Public Service and Administration and the National School of Government, where it actually puts a framework towards the professionalization of the public service. We then, as local government, have our own that is directly aligned to this one. It talks to the individual professionalization. It talks to the institutional professionalization. It also talks to the sector professionalization. So we thought it was important that we actually make sure that we say this upfront, so that there are no questions or perhaps questions around issues of duplication. It's not duplication, but I think this one is basically focused to mandate of local government and how local government needs to be professionalized. Because one of the things is that we got various functions within local government. So we cannot have a one size fits all. It needs to be tailor-made to make sure that it suits the conditions of local government, municipalities, and it actually then make sure that it takes local government forward based on its mandate. So that is why we then had to make sure that we have one that talks to local government, but still aligned to the professionalization discussion and debate that even cabinet has actually approved. So critical questions then that we have as a sector remains, how many professional bodies do we have in local government? In what disciplines? How many professionals are registered with those professional bodies within local government? What are the requirements for registration of those? Because these are some of the standards and some of the things that we need to know, so that when we engage in professionalization of the sector, we know and take stock of who is professional, who's registered with the professional, what are the professional bodies in the sector, and what are the requirements of all of those. Because one of the things that we need to do at the end of the day is to make sure that we build as a resolution, a local government council that will actually guide professionalization for local government. And we then need to answer some of these questions so that we know even some of the stakeholders that we have, that we need, and also make sure that we also have questions about what is missing. Is it the culture that is making local government not to be professionalized? Is it the way that we actually formulated, or what is the issue in there? Key interventions, a single regulatory authority, invest efforts in dedication towards professionalization, mobilization of stakeholders, and also even monitoring professionalization as we go ahead. And some of those are long-term, but I think for this particular financial year, we have done is to develop a reference group that will guide the professionalization work for local government. We done stakeholder mapping as the conference has actually given us marching orders on that to look at the various stakeholders that we need. Some are in the bargaining space, some are supporting through section 154 and various others that we need. Professional bodies, civil society I've mentioned. And what we've then done again is to send out a call for papers that will answer the questions that we outlined earlier on, and to actually give us guidance from universities or any other, so that we can actually come to a professionalization in Daba, which we are planning for March next year, with answers as to how we then go about as local government. So this one is out. We've actually circulated. It's on Salga's social medias. We've put it out and sent it to various stakeholders to make sure that at least they actually assist us in getting some of these answers. And the professionalization in Daba's objective is to secure buy-in and ultimately to develop a compact that will be a resolution or an agreement or a system that takes us forward, working with various stakeholders as we outlined earlier on, because we cannot do this thing on our own as Salga. We don't have the capacity, but we need all the other stakeholders to be part of the process. So we also need to, we've done a remuneration benchmarking to also look at the various issues and conditions of employment, including salaries of senior managers at municipal level, and to inform Salga's position and how we actually move forward on upper limits or any other processes, so that we know that the sector is professionalized, but we also make sure that we have a set standard for local government across the board. Advocacy will then come from those, whether we advocate for a different setup in terms of the upper limits or any other policy review, but those are some of the things that Salga will then be informed by the benchmarking exercise as we go forward. We have a capabilities index that we're actually doing currently, where we actually want to look at the capabilities of municipalities on various functional areas. Where are they, at what level, so that this actually informs Salga's intervention going forward, or even the professionalization model, so that if there are gaps in the capabilities of municipalities, then through professionalization, perhaps standards, we can be able to deal with those issues. So into going forward, we're going to administer some of these questionnaires to mayors, to municipal managers, MMC. So please, we request assistance to our member municipalities in this regard, so that it takes us forward. We look at people, policies, innovations, strategy, so that it actually informs our work going forward. So as I end, program director, we have a set of recommendations that we propose, that we're putting forward to the NMA, that municipalities affirm the support for the repurposed model for professionalization of the sector, to participate in the activities, including the 2023 Indaba that will actually take place in March next year. Circular will be sent to all municipalities in this regard, and also that we actually work towards a compact with professional bodies, regulators, and all the other bodies, including civil society, so that they can actually assist us in the professionalization of the sector, and to also hold us each other accountable towards whatever professionalization program or resolutions that we take as a sector going forward. So I'll end it here, Program Director, and I thank you very much.
We can do better. A round of applause for Ntate April. Thank you very much. Now, Chairperson Timer, where I'm deployed as the speaker, I normally tell the members of council that how like a person that speaks their language, to have the person that does not shy away to represent them at any other platform. Now, every time you speak, there's a clip that the PDO will be sending to us. So when she's forwarding it to us, to that group of councillors, so that they can hear how blessed they are with the crop of the Salga leadership that they've elected this time around, in particular on the matter and the subject that we are going to present just now. So I'm handing over to Ntate Chauke to really come and present to us, in particular the Salga's proposal and the outlook on councillor welfare and support, and also to reaffirm the documented Salga position on the remuneration of councillors that is now on the councillor welfare upper limits, safety of councillors. Ke kopa gore eo re ske ra o tsela re utlwelle thata. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, facilitator, and good morning, leadership and colleagues. Probably have the most difficult of the presentations over these 2 days, but as part and parcel of the job, and we'll get through that. I think a lot of the issues that I will be focusing on were touched on by the various speakers yesterday. We'll make emphasis on those and outlining some of the contentious issues that we often deal with around councillor welfare, support and empowerment of our councillors. And in terms of the purpose, we'll present Salga's proposal and outlook on the councillor welfare and support, and reaffirm documented Salga position on remuneration of councillors, as well as to present intended options and way forward to address councillors' welfare and empowerment. The remuneration of councillors has been neglected. As we often said, you're not remunerated in line with other public office bearers, and I think this is one of the issues that we need to drastically address, so that public office bearers at municipal level are adequately compensated for the kind of work that they do. And we often say local government is the closest sphere to the communities, and in line with that, the immense work that councillors do at the local government level should be also remunerated in line with those of other public office bearers. And it's time now for decisive action in ensuring equitable and fair system of remuneration for all public office bearers, so that it's not feel like local government public office bearers are a stepchild to the system, but they play an integral part in terms of the quality of life of this, how citizens enjoy the democratic dividends that we are enjoying today. Councillor safety must also needs to be intensified, and we read across the media space how councillors are attacked, their families are attacked, their properties got burned down, and some of them are unfortunately no longer with us because they've been killed by the elements that are in the system. So we call for an adequate safety for councillors across the board, so that these matters do not continue. And I then talk to some of the legislative backgrounds who's responsible for the remuneration of public office bearers. The Independent Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers Act was enacted in 1997. Also the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers Act, how office bearers must be remunerated. There are different processes that we follow in terms of the remuneration of public office bearers. At national and provincial level, the Independent Commission promulgates the recommendations. The president determines through a promulgation, the government gazette, and then they implement. For us at local government level, the Independent Commission promulgates the recommendations. The minister issues a draft followed by a final gazette. And we think this process is inherently unfair, because after the minister has issued the final government gazette, council must still go and take a council resolution. The MEC must provide concurrence, and I'll address the concurrence issues later on. And then only then can you implement. So we don't see why you should seek concurrence from the MEC when local government is a fully fledged sphere on its own. Why then do we need an MEC to come into this picture and tell us that? And some of them later on, I will address some of the contentious issues that they then now want to also, part of the concurrency process, introduce, which is nowhere provided for within the legislative prescripts of this particular process that we're dealing with. And we consider the draft notice that was issued by the minister on the 5th of May 2022 pertaining the determination of upper limits for the 2020-21 financial year. Salga took a process facilitating written comments from member municipalities. Although the draft notice did not deal with the substantive issues that Salga has historically raised on behalf of municipalities, however endorsed the draft notice. So there was an indication in terms of this current notice that it's in effect that we will not be dealing with the substantive issues, that there is a separate process between DCOG, the Independent Commission, as well as Salga, where we are looking at reviewing the holistic remuneration regime of councillors. But ultimately, some of the issues that we had noted that would not be addressed were then For example, the 300 Rand for data was taken away. Luckily, in the last 2 weeks or so, it has then been reinstated in terms of the amendment draft by the minister. And also in terms of the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers Act, Section 7, subsection D, that there's a need for the promotion of equality and uniformity of salaries, allowance, and benefits for equal work performed. And this is not the case. You get different gradings for the municipalities while councillors are essentially doing the same kind of work. And this is part of what must be addressed in terms of it should not matter ideally what the grade of the municipality that you are at, but you are essentially doing the same work. Community members don't come to honorable councillors and say, you are a grade 1 municipality, you only do 1, 2, 3. They expect you to do the same kind of work as the same councillors that are in metro municipalities. And what we also call for, there's been for the past number of years a 0% increase. For this current notice, there was a 3% increase, which is still below the inflation rate for honorable councillors, and it still eats away at the kind of parity that we want to see with other public office bearers. And what we've also noted, and we've got great concern with, is in terms of the date of issue of the notice. I think the slide there shows over the past few years when the minister has actually issued out the notice. And if you see for this particular notice, the 2021-2022 notice, it's backdated to 1 July of 2021. Yet it was only gazetted on the 2nd of June this year. The term has even ended. Councillors have left the system, yet you are only gazetting then. And it still had issues that had to come about in terms of the amendment notice on the 2nd of November. So part of what we call for is that the notices must ideally come while municipalities are preparing for the budget for the following financial year, so that you can adequately plan for these notices and not be placed in a difficult position where even the adjustment budget phase has passed and you cannot adequately respond to some of the things that might come about in terms of the notice. And as I've already addressed the timing of the notice post the budget and not addressing substantive issues, yet withdrawing some of the allowances that were previously in place. And those allowances have been brought back in terms of the 300 Rand for data, as well as the 50%, up to 50% for cell phone allowance for those councillors who are representing local municipalities at a district level. And some of the resolutions that were taken at the national conference, grade 1 to 3 municipalities must receive the same remuneration regardless of revenue or population, so that they all receive the same kind of grading, irrespective of the size of population they have or the income that they are raising. And the highest earning councillors in terms of grade 6 mayors should be benchmarked against deputy speakers of provincial legislature or members of the executive council, and dealing the grades and salaries from municipal revenue and population, so that when you link it to the population and the municipal revenue, we cannot raise on revenue in some instances because of the low tax base. So you are subjecting those municipalities to perpetually not receive an adequate remuneration regime for councillors at that kind of grading. And the concurrence process by MEC should be reviewed, where we call for that it should be done away with seeking concurrence from the MEC. Once the minister has issued out a notice, municipalities must then implement. The MEC should only come into the picture if municipalities are not implementing in line with the notice that is prevailing. I thought you'd clap hands, but it's fine, honorable councillors. Compulsory pension for and medical aid benefits provided that does not result in additional costs to councillors. So what we've also seen and taken notice of in the past few terms, that some councillors, because the notice says may include as part of the total remuneration package, a pension or medical aid, some of them don't include that. It leaves them in a very dire situation at the end of term if they don't return. So we want to make it compulsory for those councillors who can qualify for medical aid and pension that they must also be included there. And it must not come from the total remuneration package. Ideally, it should come from it should not be what comes out from councillors, but it must be paid by the municipality from the national fiscus. And the funding model should be reviewed to address the challenges, especially struggling rural and peri-urban municipalities, so that what we call for is that the remuneration of public office bearers at a local government level must come from the national fiscus. So you delink these processes of municipalities having to raise own revenue, which affects also the grading of those municipalities, and a more responsive graduated equitably similar to national and provincial public office bearers. And some of the things that we talked to earlier on, the timing of the notice, as I've already alluded to, the remuneration of public office bearers, all public office bearers, including councillors, should be remunerated the same. The review of the inequitable remuneration of public office bearers across the 3 spheres of government has become an urgent necessity, and we need to put our draw a line in the sand so that we can adequately address those once and for all. And the funding remuneration of councillors should be funded from the national fiscus. Part-time, all councillors should be deemed as full-time due to the nature of their work. Community members, when you leave today, 5 o'clock, you cannot go and tell community members I've closed office. They come to your houses at all hours of the day. So there is no notion of such of a part-time or full-time councillors. All councillors are full-time by very nature of the kind of work that they're doing. So this notion of saying that there are part-time councillors is quite a abnormality to us. And the provision of security, due to the challenging environment faced by councillors and the delay in providing the threat risk assessment by SAPS, it is proposed that municipalities ought to be given the scope to conduct their own assessments, and in addition, a danger allowance should be provided for, so that we don't continuously have to wait for SAPS when they take an inordinately long time to do this threat risk analysis. And by the time they come, unfortunately, in some instances, councillors would no longer be with us. So we call for a different kind of regime around the provision of security for honorable councillors, so that it's more agile and municipalities can respond timelessly to the threats that councillors receive on a daily basis. And the capacity building is one of the contentious issues that's also prevalent. The current notice limits it to short programs and courses for honorable councillors. But what we call for is that there should not be a limitation in terms of the capacity building programs that councillors can go for. Those of public office bearers at national and provincial level, they can go for degree programs, and there's no limit to that. Why so for councillors, where the capacity is critically needed in terms of the kind of work that they do and the impact that they have on citizens on a daily basis and the quality of life of those citizens? So we call for a different kind of capacity building regime where it opens it up for councillors to be able to discharge their responsibilities. But these capacity building programs that councillors would be able to go to, it must also be linked to the kind of work that you do. So it will not assist us as honorable councillors, with due respect, for a councillor to go and study nursing, for example, when it's not a local government mandate. I've addressed the issues of concurrence, and also just around the concurrence issues. What we also starting to see is that MECs, some of them are putting in provisions that are not catered for. Like before they provide concurrence, they want to look at your audit opinions. Yet for them, there is no such provision at a provincial and national level. So where do they get this issues of looking at audit outcomes before they can provide you with concurrence on the upper limits? It's fine, honorable councillors. And also in 2017-16, around there, Salga did a study around the violence in democracy, a study on damage to property, intimidation, threats, harm, and killing of councillors and municipal officials. And it's a painful process and sad reality of the loss of lives, intimidation, destruction of property that local government sector incurred. And there was cases of just here in Matlosana where councillors' houses were burnt. Figures mentioned in the study of councillors, municipal managers, senior managers, and ward committees murdered, intimidated, threatened, and whose properties and assets have been destroyed are not of fictional characters, and they're of real people and extremely shocking. And if we do not arrest the situation, a lot of the people going forward will not be interested to become councillors in the space, and it erodes the democratic dividends. So we need to call and make bold decisions around the safety of councillors, around their lives and their properties, so they can be adequately protected. And we don't have to wait for these threat risk assessments that take months on end. And the impact of violence and killing of these key role players in municipalities are almost felt by families and communities from where they come. The loss of loved ones has serious impact to all families in that they lost fathers, mothers, sons and daughters, and worst, some breadwinners. The findings of the study as presented should compel Salga, working with municipalities, government, business, community civil society organizations, and all development partners to appreciate our beloved leaders and officials more, and to put mechanisms in place to protect them. And what we also started to work on, what we've realized in the past 2 terms, a lot of the councillors, when they leave, some of them, when they've received the once-off gratuity, or when they're supposed to receive the once-off gratuity or their pension funds, because they're not tax compliant with SARS, they end up owing SARS a lot of money. So we've started to work with SARS to bring them closer so that they can adequately take councillors in terms of how they can become tax compliant, and so that we don't have the issues, hopefully we don't have the challenges that we've seen in the last 2 terms come 2026. But we also urge, especially the speakers, to work closely with us and SARS so that we can come to your municipalities and provide that hands-on support at a municipal level. And we're also working with financial service providers. We've got relationship with Old Mutual and Liberty Life. What we've included in terms of the packaging around upper limits and empowerments, that around financial planning, investments, and so forth, and education on financial management issues, so that councillors can be better in terms of their financial management planning going forward. Excuse me. So we also urge speakers to work closely with us around that space so that we can empower councillors around that those processes, so that there's better financial management of their finances. And we recommend a comprehensive review of the remuneration framework for local government, the councillors. Upper limits notice should be issued before commencement of the financial year for local government. Funding of salaries, benefits, and allowances should be made from the national fiscus. The security of councillors should be urgently prioritized as it poses a threat to life and democratic values. And municipalities, in terms of speakers, are encouraged to work closely with Salga on councillor welfare and support around tax compliance and financial management. I thank you very much, honourable councillors.
Thank you very much. With powers vested in me because of time, for the purpose of time, I think I'll get an award, a PDO for that. I'm going to suppress the resource person on this presentation so that when we engage, he'll be able to respond accordingly on the matters that you have said. As we are going to engage on both presentations, may I also request that we also engage on the time frame, because we can't request really from 2021, 2027 councillors, and the people who are going to benefit are those ones that are coming after us. So we speak for ourselves now, we must benefit now, and for the others to come and benefit. So we must not speak forever. So with that being said, thank you very much. I want to call back the chair of the presentation. Before you, Councillor Khaho, the provincial chairperson wants to say something. Do we have another mic?
I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm going to offend many of you. If the provincial members assembly collapses, the political head must account. I'm going to propose the following changes to the program. One, the two previous yesterday's items which were dealt with today are close to the heart of councillors. If we open the debate, it's another hour. I'm rising because it is 12 o'clock and there are critical imperatives for today's program that we can't do without. Let's look at today's program. You are duly suppressed. You are, however, the NEC wants to veto the decision that has already been taken by the PEC. So if there's any further engagement, we are not meeting bound. The doctors are here with the professors. You are at liberty to engage them further. The presentations will be circulated. It is if we don't do this thing, we're going to leave here at 5, 6. And Dr. KK Bahaufi. Now, let's look at today's program. I'm going to suggest that we go straight to the item of the annual report. We go straight to the item of the annual report and the strategy, and that we will suspend the item on the just transition and implications for the local government. It's presented by us anyway. We can still do it locally ourselves. It's our person who is doing that particular item. So we'll start with the annual report. It will be followed by the adoption, which is academic, of consolidated provincial members assembly minutes. And then from there, we can proceed to, we will then adjourn and convene a special PEC to deal with issues relating to the organizational report for 5 minutes while you eat. The PEC will not eat, will deal quickly with the organizational report. That is what I want to table before the PMA to save us from collapsing. I am going to hand over to the NEC member. Once she has spoken, I'm the only NEC member here, so it will be me and her. Where? No.
This is our meeting. Thank you very much. I'm not speaking in my capacity as an NEC member. I'm not deployed in the meeting. But principally, we ought to process matters appropriately. One, I rise to formally accept the presentations that have been done from morning. The thrust of the issues and the principal proposals that have been tabled in those presentations, particularly on matters of coalition as it was led, including matters that were raised in other reports. I would move that this assembly accepts those thrust issues, and we will use them to work and engage with other provinces so that as the positions are solidified at province and national level, the assembly would have given thumbs up to the PEC to run with those issues. The second issue is that should there be issues that have been left out from all the presentations up to where we are, member of the assembly are welcome to further input because the proposals are going on. They can input in writing as individual members, but I would know that in the various committee meetings that have been held, we have made our inputs, and I think we accept, we are happy about the types of issues and proposals that are put forward. I therefore so move that we accept all of the presentations and the contents and give the PEC the right to further engage and finalize on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. I rise to second the motion that says that the PMA should accept the presentations that have been made as our position. And should there be further amendments on the presentations, then the member municipalities can then forward to the office to solicit a consolidated view. I then rise to second Honorable Executive Mayor of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, who is here as a delegate to the PMA. Thank you.
Now, thank you very much. The National Executive Committee's role as elected is not intermittent. Whether you are deployed or not deployed, you are an NEC member. Whether you are a mayor on leave or not, you are a mayor. It's not intermittent. So we must clarify that one. Let's talk to the proposals I have made with regard to the changes to the program so that we close it. Chair Gugu, my apology for doing what I'm doing while you are standing. Let's talk to the changes and see if they are helping us. If I was a dictator, I would have, yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Vike Maluleka from Rotile Local Municipality. I stand to support the changes that the chairperson has made. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ne ke tsogile gore wa go mo manyetsa gore ntse a presenta tsentse letsogo mo pateng. Any second?
My name is Kaya Ndingwede, not the one that Councillor Sarah mentioned yesterday. I stand to second the proposal made by the chair. I was worried when the first provincial chair and the NEC, they were talking to each other, the province and national talking to each other. We are now moving the proposal as presented by the chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The changes are duly adopted. We will, without any further ado, give over to you to wrap up.
Thank you very much, Chair. You were a good audience, and thank you very much to the presenters.
Thank you very much to debate number 4. Thank you very much to all the facilitator and the presenters and the resource people. This brings to an end session 3 that took a better part of 2 days. Ke lebogela patience ya lona. Thank you very much for all the deliberations. And just to add on to what the Deputy Chair of Salga, Councillor Mondlana, has said, all comments and inputs, member municipalities may write them, submit them to the office of the Speaker, and all offices of the Speaker will ensure that all these suggestions, comments, and inputs are forwarded directly to the relevant working committees within Salga. Ke lebogile thata bagaetsho. Thank you. Can I hand over to Councillor Tshireletso Marabutsi, second, third deputy chair. I'm handing over the program to you to lead us on session 6, which is a closed session. Ke a leboga leadership.
Dumela. Dumela. Le kae? Le kae? I'm very short. I don't know if it's because. What class? You big stella komara. Are thabile? Are we happy? Re tla dula re thabile. Ka dinako tsotlhe. we are reminded of the late Tebo Manyapelo, one of the best radio personalities that this province has ever produced. Yesterday, the chair was recognizing or acknowledging the stars and the leaders that were produced by this province. So I just thought maybe I should add to the list. We're not going to waste any time because we've already wasted much time. It's a rainy day in the city of Matlasan. And I know that some of you who are leading municipalities where agriculture is the main comparative advantage, this rain is a blessing to you. But we also cannot overlook the level of disaster that this rain has subjected our people to. So I'm going to plead that when we go back to our municipalities as leaders of society, we must ensure that our disaster management teams are very active and they do whatever it takes to respond to the challenges that our people are faced with as a result of this rain, particularly in rural municipalities where stormwater management is a bit of a challenge. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of the Executive Mayor of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Councillor Nikki Wenam, and to also acknowledge the chairperson of the province, Councillor Khumalo Molefe, the deputy chairperson, Councillor Mondlana, PC members, executive mayors, speakers, whips, single whips, honorable councillors from various municipalities, municipal managers, senior managers from various municipalities, Salga, operation team, all of our esteemed guests, stakeholders and sponsors, Dumela Mbakhaicho. I'm Councillor Sirelejo Marabutse, the third Deputy Provincial Chairperson of Salga in the Northwest. It was the undertaking of the PEC that those who are deputizing the chair must propel the program of the assembly. Yesterday, it was Councillor Mondlana, Councillor Stella Mondlane, right? And she did a super stellar work in terms of programming yesterday's or directing yesterday's program. And today is myself, the problematic child. We're going to go straight to the program. And the first item there on the program is the attendance, accreditation and condonation, which was supposed to be done by Councillor Tumisang Khaurailwe, but we have resolved between myself and the deputy chair, Mondlane, and the chairperson that this item should be rendered by Councillor Tshepiso Mpetlo, the executive mayor of Mahikeng local municipality. As you are sent to the podium, Councillor Mpetlo. Rata Mahike, the premier's favorite child, with a beautiful suit.
Yes. Good morning. How are you, everyone? Good afternoon, in fact. Can I please, before I greet everyone, call one of the officials of Salga to come to the stage urgently? And I don't see anyone here. Oh, PDO, yes, you can come. If I was in church, I would say let's give one item of a hymn or at least something.
We are still 15 minutes.
Okay, let me use your phone. Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah, I thought. Yeah, good morning again. Chair, you know, I'm PDO
Ke na le bolwetsi ba go bua thata ne. So bolwetsi bo, I just hope I'll definitely render what I'm supposed to do today. I'll definitely won't talk too much the way I am. So, Chair, this is the statistics as it stands. Like I said, or I was introduced, my name is Tshepiso Mpetlo, the Executive Mayor of Mahikeng Local Municipality. I was requested here to cover in for Councillor, what's his name? Tumisang Kauraili, the Mayor of Greater Taung. Now I'm just busy because I'm stepping in for someone who's not here as well today. Okay. Now these are the attendance accreditations and condonations of the municipalities who are members of Salga in Northwest Province. And we'll start with the first one, the hosting city of Matlosana. Matlosana being the first one is in good standing. Maybe you can clap your hands for yourselves as well. Or okay, we're just clipping for Matlosana because they are the hosting. So let me just read all of them, then follow afterwards. The second one being Madibeng, good standing as well. Bojanala Platinum District Municipality in good standing. Dr. Ruth Sokhomutsi Mompati District Municipality in good standing. Dr. Kenneth Kawunda District Municipality, good standing. Greater Taung Local Municipality, Councillor Tumisang Khaurailwe, it's in good standing as well. Rustenburg Municipality, good standing. Councillor Mabale Humale, Councillor Mokhomutsi. Kagisano Molopo in good standing. And the beautiful Mahikeng Local Municipality in good standing as well. Moretele in good standing. I think they've proven got clean, unqualified auditor opinion, or they are really in good standing. Everything is just in order. Then Ngaka Mudire Molema District Municipality, and I've been looking at the presentations there, and we are hoping for the best for this municipality. They are also in good standing. This is the home ground of the provincial chairperson of Salga. JB Marks Local Municipality, good standing. Ratlo Local Municipality, and that the Majoro Jafta Matlomola also in good standing. Lekwata Imane, Reseva Motlabi in absentia, good standing as well. Moses Kotane, good standing as well. And last but not least, Naledi Local Municipality, status of the municipality as well is in good standing. So these are the members, municipalities who are in good standing, Chair. We're hoping that we'll keep up the good work, because this means that when we have Salga operational, means that we'll also have the municipality operating in a good and effective manner. And Chair must say, this is the responsibility that I was assigned to do today. And just to send a message of concern and caution as well. Most of our municipalities have been hit by heavy floods across also the district of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda and Ngagamudire Molema. Within Mahikeng, it's worse. Houses of our people have fallen down. So we've been liaising with the Premier to declare certain municipalities as provincial disasters. So I've been sitting here trying to liaise with people back home to see what we can do also to help our people. Let's just exercise caution and also communicate with our communities to exercise caution, and also pray hard that these disasters will not destroy us. In conclusion, Chair,
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor Mpetlo. Chair, on the 3rd of December, the Executive Mayor is bringing Casper to to Mahikeng, right, for the fill up. But there's also an issue of Councillor Mokhomotsi getting married. So I don't know how are we going to split ourselves between the two important occasions. It will have to be an item. The assembly has just made an undertaking to skip the item on the presentation. So we're going to go straight to the adoption of consolidated 2021 Provincial Members Assembly minutes, which will be done by Councillor Dr. Batsi. I'm intimidated by the executive mayor of Dr. Kenneth Kaund. Chair. Just so you should know, you must protect me.
We are going to do that. Thank you very much, Program Director, the third Deputy Chair of Northwest Salga. Let me take this opportunity maybe to acknowledge quickly the PEC led by Timer, Molefe Kumalo, mayors, speakers, executive mayors that are here, and whips. I'm not going to waste any time. Mine is too little. But I wanted to say maybe the third deputy chair must protect you, because I believe that the NEC member understand this beautiful PMA, well organized by this leadership. So feel free to lead. But the only thing is that we must look at time. Mine is too little, as I've already said. Adoption of consolidated 2021 Provincial Members Assembly minutes and declaration. We'll then remember, definitely I'm sitting PDO. I believe that 80 or 70% of us were not part of the previous 2021 Provincial Members Assembly. So we must not waste time. We must move strict to adoption. So I am going to give members the opportunity to adopt. Okay. Can I proceed? Okay. I saw the hand at the back. Speaker Lekwate Mane, Councillor Mpopilan. No, it doesn't need chairperson to respond to you. I think I'm here. I will do that job. It's important for us as the assembly to adopt, because there is leadership here. Don't worry. There is leadership. Councillor Mabale Huma.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson Councillor Mabale Huma from Rustenburg. I was part of those who participated in the previous Provincial Member Assembly. I would like to move for the adoption of the minutes as they are. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is a hand of Mama Num.
Oh, okay. No, Chairperson, thank you. No, just a correction before Member Naliteng approve. The minutes need to be corrected. Was it in 2020 or 21? Sheba first page here. Now we may not know what other issues that needs correction, but at least if the day one was 30 November 2020, we should not say 2021.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the then they will be corrected. PDO,
I believe
wait first. PDO, clarity on issues of dates before we make resolution or we take resolutions. It's going to be important.
Sorry, Chair. The mistake was made on the program. The minutes are correct. It's 2020.
Okay, thank you. Ga gona problem. Re setse re siame. Re setse re nnile le a mover. I saw a hand at the back. O tla ikitsise councillor.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Councillor Caroline Nkefe Motsabi from Moses Kotane. I was part of this PMA. I am seconding that the minutes are our minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And where I'm sitting or where I'm standing, I believe that there were every member here got those minutes. So we'll go through those minutes. Don't worry. If you want to say something, then you still have that opportunity because the leadership that we have is quite all right. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Program Director. Ke a leboga.
Thank you very much, Councillor Badzi, and thank you for protecting me against the executive mayor of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. The minutes are duly adopted. It was an undertaking of the assembly that also the next item just after that one, the PEC will have to go for a short meeting. So we'll go straight to the presentation of the annual report, which will be done by Mr. Lancel Joel. Lance, my apologies. Lunch. NEC meetings only. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Program Director, and once more greetings to everyone. I am also not going to stand in the way of lunch. The two documents are quite critical for purposes of our own internal constitutional compliance, as well as ensuring that governance is indeed followed. But both documents have been circulated. If I could ask them to just quickly put it up so that I can just highlight key elements of it. And I think the document looks wrong, but let me proceed. Next slide. Let's go to next slide. Yeah, you have the wrong document. But it's fine. It's fine. Let me detail what I wanted to highlight by getting to the right slides. Can you please put the right document? I have not given you this document. This is a different document. Use the document I've given you. But as we walk through it, the first document is the annual report of Salga for the last financial year that ended this year at the end of March. And the second document is suggested proposals for the Salga annual performance plan for the next financial year, 2023-2024. Perhaps as the team is looking at the document that I've asked for, the second document, the annual plan for the next financial year, is draft and a very first draft of the thinking about what we want to do in the next financial year. However, what emerges from this month of provincial members' assemblies will influence what goes into the plan for next year, because this is an opportunity for us to assess what the needs are of municipalities and the areas we should be responding to based on the needs in the next financial year. We have had recently a council of mayors, we've had a council of speakers. We have gone through the local government week. We have also seen COCTA convening the local government summit. And all of the conversations that are taking place in those respective structures will find its way into the plan for next year, which we still have a few months to conclude. But probably more importantly, I'm sure the chair will later speak to it, is that the National Executive Committee of Salga has been rotating its meetings, and it already has met with 2 provinces in the Northern Cape and the Western Cape respectively, and will next month also engage with a province, and the chairperson will speak to that. Much of what is emerging out of what municipalities want would also find expression. So the idea, quite deliberately so, is that the menu for Salga delivery must be informed by our members. So we can't be sitting in Pretoria and sitting in Klerksdorp in our offices and determine what members want. We must hear from members, and the last 2 days is an opportunity. So we've been taking notes on what it is that members really want us to assist them on, but also what you would want us to drive for you and advance for you in the IGR space that we are very active in. So that's the second document, and it's really still draft work. I should also indicate that you will be receiving shortly a survey that we are going to conduct. We are really pleading with yourselves to spend time on completing that survey. It will assist us in assisting you. So we want to really be deliberate in our attempt to be your voice and not be our own voices. So please do, when the moment comes in the next week or 2, do find time across municipalities to complete the survey so that we can really be responsive to your needs. I'm not sure if the team got the presentation. You've got it now. Is that the right one? Yes. Like in municipalities, we are required to, after the financial year, develop an annual report based on both the financial as well as the non-financial performance for the year. And we have done that like yourselves. And this is really an outcome of that exercise. We'll skip all of the procedural matters, but importantly, and Chairperson, I thought I should mention this because quite often there is an expectation that Salga must do everything. I think the expectation would be well-founded, but the reality as an organization, we operate in a space where we are not alone. There are strategic partners, role players, stakeholders that operate in the very same space. Many of them are better resourced than ourselves. Many of them present us with an opportunity to collaborate. And quite often when we do our work, we do tap into external resources. And what the slide presents to you are typically in that wheel, the external resources that we tap into as part of ensuring that we respond to the mandate given to us. From an audit outcome point of view, we are quite proud to say that for 13 years consecutively, we have had unqualified audit results. And of the 13, 10 in a row have been clean audits. We are similarly quite excited that in terms of our predetermined objectives from a performance point of view, for the last financial year, we have achieved 92% of the predetermined objectives. And this year we want you, as part of the first item I've just spoken to assist us to determine what those objectives are so that they are responsive to your needs. So that when we get to the end of the financial year and we present to you the outcome of our performance, you should have felt it within your respective spaces as municipalities. So that was the performance for the year. This is just cutting across the 4 outcomes. It should also be noted that this was the last year of the 5-year plan that we executed as adopted in 2017, and the NEC in April this year adopted the new 5-year plan, which will run from 2022 up to 2027. So these, the outcomes that you saw on this slide, the 4 outcomes, are related to the previous plan, as this was the last year of that plan. And now we have 6 new outcomes as part of our new plan. This is just a reflection of our execution across the mandates. But for the 5 years, this is the picture that you would see in an organization and that tries its best to lead from the front. And you can see, with the exception of the year when we were in the thick of COVID-19, for the remainders, we were above 90%, and we achieved 85% in that year. And the reasons are quite obvious. We were under lockdown for much of the part of that year. We're not here to defend our 85%, but merely indicating that some of these things were beyond our control, as much as we tried to be responsive. These are just key highlights. Core to this financial year, having been an extraordinary year with a local government election, and linked to that election, we had to focus on the support we provide to municipalities pre the elections. And you will recall the engagements that we have had, numerous engagements with municipalities that started as far back as in May 2021 to prepare municipalities for the elections, so that it's a smooth transition from the previous term of office into the new term of office. We also had to guide, in particular, the administration on what to do in the absence of the political leadership during that phase of the elections, up to the announcement of the elections, and immediately thereafter, the inaugural meetings that had to be convened of all municipalities. And then, of course, the support that we provided post the elections, which included the induction. So much of our focus really went into this transition. And it was not only a transition for local government itself, but also a transition from Salga that saw us transitioning from the previous leadership at both provincial and national level into the new leadership of the organization for this year. Yes, whilst we were busy with the transition, there were other things we had to do, and key amongst them is the collective agreement that was concluded that really introduced stability from a labor point of view. And quite often we don't see the value of this stability that is introduced. And if you compare ourselves against national and provincial government, particularly what is happening this week, you would then appreciate the value attached to having a multi-year agreement and all parties respecting that agreement, ultimately ensuring that there's labor peace, labor stability across our municipalities. So that is just the highlights from a governance point of view. We remain quite strong on governance, ensuring that all of our structures convened. I scanned Chairperson through your own governance in the province, and you will recall the first meeting we had, we did the PEC Lekgotla. Coincidentally, it was in this very room. It was made up of 2 parts. It was next door, where we waited for the quorum, Chairperson. I hope you have stopped waiting for the quorum, because you were quite deliberate that day in setting the tone that that's not the PEC that you would want to lead. But we can see in the province that there's a vast improvement from where we are from in the previous term. Those that were there in the previous term, you will recall, including being summoned by the Salga NEC to explain yourselves why the PEC is dysfunctional. So we are very excited to see that things have really turned. And Chairperson, we are really hoping, together with the collective leadership, that you will sustain that until the end of this term. But from a governance point of view, you are contributing to ensure that we remain intact in that space. From other areas, compliance, we meet those particular areas. What the next two slides just indicates to you for the year under review is that the positions that we have recruited for across the organization, and then secondly, the total staff complement across the 10 offices sitting at 398 staff members. I should speak about this slide because I should indicate that in May this year, we came under attack when we were in the portfolio committee. And I should indicate that quite often, Salga is the darling of the portfolio committee, not because we try to be in attendance and be visible, but because they can rely on us for information. The Salga voice has been quite independent. We have at times been too honest, and some appreciate that honesty. But in May, we came under attack in the portfolio committee when we presented our performance for the fourth quarter of the financial year, last financial year, when there was concern about the number of people that we have in Salga. The direct accusation was, if I can quote verbatim, is that it seems like you exist only to employ yourselves and pay yourselves salaries. Quite unfortunate comment. But in the economic climate that we are in, perhaps an element of honesty that we should be disciplined in that space. But the reality is that the nature of Salga as an organization is that the hands and feet of the staff are central to giving effect to the Salga mandate. So we are not closing taps when there are leaks. Not our responsibilities. We don't appoint service providers to close taps when there are leaks. So we are not a service provider intense organization. And I think that may have been the concern in the main, that we don't see you appointing service providers, so you're not contributing. Well, that's not our responsibility. Ours is to, in line with our mandate, support members, and we use the human resources to do so. But also we must be disciplined when it comes there to, particularly in the context of the economic climate that we are operating in. From a financial performance point of view, I'm sure those that have been with Salga for a long time would know that this picture has not changed. It's been the picture, as far as I know, for the last 20 years, that there is a heavy reliance on members to sustain the organization. Members being municipalities, and municipalities who themselves are experiencing financial constraints and difficulties. But unfortunately, we remain dependent on that. We firstly want to appreciate the fact that we see, in particular, leading up to events of this nature, the members are coming on board. Members are ensuring that they are contributing to this organization to keep it healthy, ensure that it is able to execute its responsibilities. So we appreciate that continued support as the organization, but it is something that we are looking at on how we can reduce our dependency on this picture. As you would have heard yesterday, the Salga deployee Councillor Masekela reporting that we will now be delisted as an organization, as a public entity. We will continue to account as we have done in the past. But one of the key things it will assist us to do is to be able to explore alternative revenue measures, something we can't do as a Schedule 3A public entity, and therefore are forced into this particular difficulty that we have. And we're hoping that it will be much more responsive and reduce the reliance on member municipalities, although we will remain dependent, but perhaps financially less reliant over time. This is the picture of how we then spend the money that we get from yourselves, and it shows you across the respective areas of spending that our focus is core around program costs and program costs that are linked to executing our mandate. And that's where much of our focus goes into. We remain a financially sound organization, although there are a number of risks that we have to mitigate on an ongoing basis. This part I've already spoken to, Chairperson. I just like this slide. I thought it tells such a story about local government itself, that we have a lot of baggage. This morning, we saw the presentation by Dr. Ben that confirms this picture, that we are under strain. So as a successor in title, you take over a lot of responsibilities, both positive and negative. You can unfortunately